We're live, John. Put your phone down.
No.
What's up, everyone? I'm here live with John McCrae. We are at ETS conference. The Dizzle or D Wood is around here somewhere. I think he might show up. I can't make any promises though. So keep your eyes up. Why is there that on my screen? What is going on?
That's because you went like this. It's a new feature.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that is weird.
Or you can go like this.
All right. Well, don't do that. That's ridiculous.
We're sitting so close. That's terrible. What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good night.
You all know John McCrae. What do you meme? He's here with us in San Antonio. We are here live with scholars. A lot of interesting talks going on. I was at dinner tonight with William Lane Craig and some other nice scholars like Andrew Loke. Peter Van Wagen was there. It was really interesting. Great time so far. A lot of great talks here happening at the ETS conference. So I figured we would go live, answer some questions in. So if you guys have super chats, send them in. We are basically this is an impromptu live, nothing planned. We basically are just at the conference. It's the evening after the first day, and I thought we could do some Q&A. So send in some questions, and we will go through them. So John McCrae is here. He is the culture guy. He does a lot of weird culture stuff. And he's not paying attention.
No, I am. I'm watching the comments.
Oh, well, they're right there, too, on the screen.
I can't see that far. My vision is bad.
This is what I got these now. I'm approaching 40, and so I had to get glasses. So
yeah, I hear you.
I'm old, even though people still think I'm like in my 20s. And by the way, camera's there. I keep looking down, so apologize. But I see you, all of you, as we're live. So when questions come in, we will start going through some of them. So they are in the apostate prophet's basement. Yeah. No, we're in a very nice hotel room at Marriott, I believe. Although I'm not staying at this hotel because I never book these right. I always pick the wrong hotel. So how you doing, John? What's going on your channel?
Channel's going. Just, posting videos pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right. We got some questions coming in. So super chats again we'll always have priority. What is it?
What is your opinion on the angel of the Lord? Is he God? I think the angel of the Lord is Jesus. What do you think?
Yeah, so my basic take on that is yes. If you go to places like Exodus 3, it says the angel of the Lord appeared to Moses in the midst of the bush, and then it says God spoke to him from and this is when God says, I am that I am. So this is the angel of the Lord talking to Moses. So you have that. You have other passages like when the angel of the Lord appears to Hagar in Genesis. Now, people go, well, it says it's an angel. Well, angel doesn't mean like we have it today. Angel in the Hebrew Bible, it just means messenger. So it's the messenger of the Lord. And you can even check out a book by a Hebrew scholar who is an Orthodox Jew, Benjamin Sommer. He wrote a book called The Bodies of God. And he makes the case that, he's got no theological objections to the Trinity because he finds a multi-personal God in the Hebrew Scriptures. So great book. Check out. Keep that in mind. But yeah, I do think the angel of the Lord is God for sure. What do you any more thoughts on that?
No, I just agree. And it's interesting because the last time I went through the Old Testament, I was like paying attention to it. And then you see some parallels too, like that you'll continuously see. Parallels in the New Testament too, some references to the angel of the Lord in the New Testament too, which seems to be Jesus. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think so.
Important question on the screen there.
Who's taller? Definitely me.
Yes, definitely him. I'm much bigger on camera, so I'm like 6'8" on camera, and I drop like a foot when I'm off camera. So that's the problem there. So where did I see one? Plans to update the Trinity series? Yeah, I do. Again, that's just another topic I need to get to. So it just it depends on when I get to. Right now, I'm still going through the reliability of the gospel series, and I've updated that to now it's going to be like 11 parts. And I've only uploaded 4, so I'm only like a third of the way done with that. But yeah, that's coming. It's just in the pipe. There's other stuff I got to get to, and of course, I got other videos I'm doing as well. So that's kind of what's going on with there.
Yeah. Are you on a posting schedule or no?
Yes. Yeah. I post twice a month, long form videos. I'm trying to do short form stuff every day, but that's
crazy. Twice a month. That's all you post. That'd be nice. I would love that.
But you see, the difference between you and me, John, is like I do research, so it takes me a while to get those done.
What do you think? I just say stuff?
Yeah. Yes.
I spent about a week of research on almost every video.
Okay, I spend like months
I know.
researching for one video.
Hey, what do you guys think about world's smartest atheist finally admits ... and then him saying something about blind faith in the thumbnail. 1, 2 comma.
Okay, all right. Just so everyone's aware, all of you watching,
Yeah.
David Wood just walked in and he's trying to figure out how to title of one of his videos. So that's what you just heard. I think it sounds good, David.
Oh, okay. Guess I'll roll with that.
Yeah. Roll with that first, and then modify if it sucks.
Yeah. So here's a question: Did Jacob wrestle with an angel or God?
That's a good question. What do you think?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Answer is yes. Yeah, he wrestled with the angel of the Lord, I'd say.
Yeah.
And atheists tend to love this passage because they'll say like they'll bring up the fact that Jacob was clinging to him and couldn't get away from him. So they're like, oh, God was not powerful enough to get rid of Jacob. I'm like if you read the whole passage, like the angel uses his power to give him a limp for the rest of his life. So obviously God had the power in that situation to do what he needed to and just overpower Jacob, but he's wrestling with him to make a point about Israel wrestling with God over the years. So you have any more questions? You find any?
This one says, what are your thoughts on the rapture, from Crafty Veteran?
Crafty Veteran. There it is. Okay. Yeah. It's not going to happen, guys.
Oh my goodness.
There's no rapture in the Bible.
Well, you have 1 Thessalonians 5, and is that it? There's one more verse that seems to apply.
There aren't any. I mean, so
well, what people will say, what the arguments for the rapture being biblical is 1 Thessalonians 5 when he says we'll be caught up in the air with them. And then I'm trying to think if there's another verse. I can't think of anything else.
So I did a video back in May on rapture in the Bible. You guys can check that out if you just go on the channel. It's like 10 minutes or something long. And so the biggest one they'll use is the Thessalonians passage. And the problem with that one is that if you read the full context, Paul is clearly talking about when Jesus returns, final resurrection, it talks about the dead being raised to life. So that's obviously not some pre-tribulation rapture. And N.T. Wright has noted that Paul is using language he uses in 1 Corinthians 15, and it's the same language you're going to see when a Roman emperor would be coming to a city. They'd rush out to meet him so they could usher him back in. Paul is saying the same thing about Jesus' return, is that we will be caught up in the clouds to meet him, but that's to bring him back to the earth. We're not leaving. We're bringing him to the earth. So there's no rapture in the Bible. This is a very Protestant evangelical idea. If you go to more traditional churches, they're like, what are you talking about? So yeah, no rapture, not in the Bible. But we do got some super chats coming in. You want to thank you for the super chats, helping us fund the channel. So yeah, super chats get priority.
This person says, why doesn't John have any leg hair? I do. You just can't see it.
It doesn't.
It doesn't look like it in there.
No, it doesn't.
That's kind of crazy.
Look, this man is a metrosexual. He's got to keep himself nice and smooth.
You just can't see it. You have to believe in John's leg hair by faith, everyone.
Okay, let's not talk about legs here. What do we call his legs? Transfiguration legs. We call David the transfiguration legs. Me and Jorge from Cross Examine, because his legs were super bright and white. And so they were super shiny when we all were at a hot tub in this when we had an apologetics conference a few years ago.
This turning into a conversation about me.
You came in here talking about my beautiful legs, so I'm gonna have to punch you in the spot.
All right. Eventually David Wood will join us on camera instead of shouting at us off camera like an angry old man that he's upset we're in his yard or something.
Like an angry man trying to return soup in
David Wood's legs looks like a landing strip. You guys can see him at night, so if you need a landing strip for a jet, that's what.
Why are you all sitting so close? Because he smells nice. What do you want from me? So, we got to be on camera. There's not a lot of room here, so I'll move over a little bit till David Wood gets here. He was supposed to join us. That's why we were so close. So okay. Yeah. First super chat. How would you, if had to, defend against the assertion that annihilationism is too easy and gives sinners no incentive? Keep up the good work. Thank you, Trevor, for the super chat. Yeah. So good question. So the one thing I say is that I think that's a fair objection to a traditional understanding of annihilationism, that when you die, God just annihilates the soul, or at final judgment, God just annihilates the soul. For one thing, I think traditional annihilationists can be well, you got to stand before judgment and you will feel the shame of your sin there. excuse me. So that's something there. It's not just what people think it is. However, I'm not a traditional annihilationist. I'm an eventual annihilationist. And so this is a term I've come up with. Basically, my view is that when you die, if you reject Jesus, you go to hell. The way God primarily punishes in the Bible, not all the time, but primarily is through death, physical death, and exile. And that's what hell is in my view. It's physical death plus your exile from God's presence. And then the further you get away from God's presence, so to speak, the more your soul would annihilate itself. So it's this idea that, you still have to keep going away. And the more you move away from God, the more mentally painful and just horrible that would be. And that's what we would call hell. Check out a video I did called "Does God Send People to Hell?" I talk about what the mental anguish is there and why it would be bad. So check out that video if you've got interests on it. But yeah, I don't think annihilationism really gets the non-believer out of it, because in my view, God is life. He's not going to send someone out of existence. He's life. He gives life. He's not going to annihilate soul, but they can do that freely if they keep rejecting him after death, is what my view would be.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to think about what it means for them to have an out. It's too easy and give someone an out. So I guess the question here then is like the threat of eternal punishment is what's needed to get people to believe in Jesus. But that's only off the assumption that I guess that the best way to motivate somebody is to do it based off of fear. So I guess the thing is, if people don't want eternal life, they don't have to have eternal life, right? And so if they reject it, I'd say that's on them. But I also, so I guess that would be the punishment, because you're taken away from everything that's good about this life, But I think so I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking a little bit about the practical implications behind why you're saying that, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Lacobe Mills. What is the soul and the spirit? How do they differ? And do they separate after death? So that's an interesting question. Soul and spirit are going to be defined differently, in my view, in different books of the Bible. They're not going to be used the same. Like Paul talks about spiritual gifts at some points, and he's not talking about like the ontology of a spirit. My view of the soul is more of an Aristotelian type view, not exactly as what Aristotle said, but my view of the soul is it's more in line with what you would see in a soul building theodicy. So your soul is a collection of your thoughts, your dreams, your emotions, your dispositions, your desires, your memories, and that evolves over time. So it's it's like soul building. You're building up a soul as you go through life. And so maybe I would say biblically, the spirit is the conscious agent beneath the soul. So a spirit, or as I would say, a mind, a conscious agent, is building up a soul over time. So that's what I'd say. So you are a spirit in that you are a conscious mind. You are building this soul, and you're in a physical body. So soul, spirit, body kind of thing is what I'd say. But again, you got to look at each passage, because sometimes these words can have different meanings depending on how the biblical authors are using it. Like Ephesians 6, when it talks about principalities and the rulers, it's obviously talking about literal demonic forces, versus how it could be used elsewhere in like 1 Corinthians. It's going to be used slightly differently. You have any thoughts on that? Or
no, I just recommend J.P. Moreland's book called The Soul, where he goes into depth on this too. But he does hold a view that substance dualism. If you have a different view, then you might not enjoy it as much. But I hold to substance dualism.
Yeah, well, you're wrong about that, but you're allowed to.
I think I'm right, but he's wrong. But that's okay. That's all right. We got the medicine for him. It's okay.
Yeah, so I'm an idealist, as you all know, and
that's right.
Yeah, we're winning that fight right now. So thank you, John, for the super chat. Love you all. Keep up the good fight. Random off-topic question. What are your thoughts on the challenge from James Tour on the origin of life? What are your thoughts? Okay, so for a second I thought he was directly challenging me, and if it is, I've not seen it, if that's what you mean. But so my whole take on this is I have a more of a philosophical objection to James Tour argument. So his basic premise, and I think he's right on a lot of things. Like in terms of abiogenesis, we still have a long way to go. I do not deny that. There's a lot that still needs to be uncovered. My whole position, though, is since I'm a process structuralist, and that I think the universe is basically fine-tuned to create life. So I'm more in the line of like someone like Simon Conway Morris in that, or Seth Hart, another guy, in that the universe is sort of like, the universe has certain natural laws that fine-tune life to go down certain paths. So if you were wound the tape of life and started over, you would get human life again, or at least something very similar. So with that, because of that, I think that the universe is fine-tuned to bring about life. So even though we may not have discovered all the laws, my objection would be more philosophical. Why does God need to create life, especially through like supernatural creation? He can create life through natural laws he fine-tunes in the universe. That's going to be, in my view, a simple explanation than saying that God has to sort of show up, make life like sort of like with like the zap of lightning from his finger kind of thing, versus him just having certain natural laws imbued in the universe that can just bring about this life. And so, yeah, I think James Tour is right. We still have much to do in abiogenesis. I think he's a little bit more pessimistic. Capturing Christianity had on someone to reply to him on this recently after his debate. So I think,
what is his view? Just as an ontological distinction, so therefore it couldn't arise naturally. Is that what he says?
He says there's not enough evidence to show how life could arise naturally. And I agree that it would be a problem on naturalism.
Yeah.
But I think on a theistic account, you can't have that. But again, it's not something it's fresh in my mind, but that would be my take.
So are you so you hold to the structuralism because of what, just Occam's razor? Is that why?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, why does God need to supernaturally create life when he can do it through natural laws? It's like God can do like Exodus plagues.
Right,
God just uses nature to send the plagues. He doesn't have to like show up and like, beat up the Pharaoh or something. He uses plagues. And so God can use nature to create life.
Is there any reason to think that that's true? Just fine tuning, or is it just kind of like your?
No, I did a video a while back called was evolution inevitable?
Right.
And I argue there's a lot of evidence of self-assembly processes.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of evidence of self-assembly processes.
Okay.
Convergence evolution sort of showing this, that it seems that the universe could be fine-tuned for life. Now, again, there's still a lot more work needs to be done in that area. But my objection would be more philosophical. If God can do it through nature, he doesn't need to do it through supernatural unless it's necessary. So,
yeah.
All right, next super chat here. Does the multiple discoveries of soft tissue found in dinosaur fossils cause any conflict with the theory that dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago? So how does one reconcile this? Okay, well, this is nonsense. So the actual paleontologist, I believe I forget her name, who found this, hates how young Earth creationists represent her work. She can't stand it. It's not what people think it is. She found certain proteins. I do remember Potholer 54 did a video on it, but it's not fresh in my mind right now. But I know the actual researcher who has found the supposed soft tissue says young Earth creationists misrepresent her. And by the way, she is a Christian. She's of course a theistic evolutionist, but she thinks young Earthers have been taking her work out of context, and she's the one who's publishing the findings. So no, I don't think it creates any problems, because also just on the basis of this question, if we did find dinosaur soft tissue, that doesn't mean the Earth is now 6,000 years old. Just like young Earthers will bring up things like Saturn's rings, which I also think there's problems with that argument. But even if they could somehow show that Saturn's rings are younger than what the standard idea is, that does not mean the universe is young or the Earth is young. That just means there might be another feature that's a little younger than we thought about the universe. If she found dinosaur soft tissue, that just might mean that maybe dinosaurs may have lived a little bit longer than we had thought. That doesn't make the Earth also younger. But again, there's problems with how young Earthers have been representing her research, unfortunately. So thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Much appreciated, Andrew. Question for what do you mean? Well, let's skip that one. I'm kidding. Do you know anything about Imperial Japan?
I do not. No.
I know a lot about Imperial Japan.
Some, I guess, but it depends on what specifically we're talking about, I guess.
I mean, it would be World War II stuff. I know a lot about World War II. I know a lot about World War II history.
Yeah. I guess I would be curious what the question was specifically about.
Yeah, maybe hit us up with another question. What do you mean about Imperial Japan?
Yeah.
I mean,
what do you meme
what do you meme
about Imperial
about Imperial Japan? So yeah, that'd be a. I mean, if you want to know anything about World War II facts, I can cover that. I think my whole issue in World War II is I think Japan was a bigger problem than Germany. Germany was a problem. But if you look at Japan, they were willing to like go all out to defend that island. And no one can hear you in the other room, David. You're too far from the mic. So and I think they were a much stronger threat. In terms of evil, I don't know who was more. I would say Japan was a stronger threat than Germany was, and they demonstrated that by actually outlasting Germany. So yeah, I think we made more progress in North Africa and then on Normandy, and then meanwhile in the Pacific, we're trying to do this island hopping campaign, and it's going much slower and much harder. And boy, was it's something. So yeah, is Molinism good an argument for free will? So
Yeah.
Molinism is more about divine command, associating God's foreknowledge with certain possible worlds God could create. It's more of a way to sort
middle
of
knowledge. It's based on middle knowledge, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be an argument for free will, though. It's more about
It's more compatible with free will.
It's a reply to Calvinism.
Right.
Like, does God determine everything? Well, he determines from his middle knowledge, where he looks at what certain decisions free creatures could make. I would say Molinism is going to entails some sort of free will because of middle knowledge, but I wouldn't use it as an argument for free will.
Right.
Hey, Michael, big supporter here. I showed my wife some of your beautiful and inspiring gospel videos, like your Tim Keller inspired video. It's been a while since you've done one. Got any planned? Well, sir, I have. I put up a couple of videos like that. Check out a video I just did called The Absurdity of Christianity. You'll enjoy that one. It's in that same kind of theme where I'm responding to the argument that Christianity is absurd because it has a religion where God has to die for sins. And so that was a gospel message video. I did a video back in March called Why Jesus Hasn't Returned Yet. Another gospel message video. Check out a video I did called The Lost Message of the Bible. Check out a video I did called The Lesson of Samson. So I've done a lot of videos like that.
Yeah, what kind of supporter are you, Rubber Glass? Huh?
Hey,
not watching any of his videos?
Hey, he's a big supporter. Okay, he's a big supporter.
Yeah, I don't blame you, Rubber Glass. I know. You probably fell asleep.
I will kick you out of my stream.
Oh, you will not.
How am I can't kick you out when you're here? I just click a button. I've been struggling with Hebrews 6:4-6. Does this mean that there is no hope for apostates? Can not come back to Christ after the season of doubt?
Yeah.
So let's just pull up the verse here.
It's been a minute since I looked at this verse, but that verse is the one where it says, oh my gosh, I know this verse.
For it is impossible in the case of those who have once been enlightened, who have tasted the heavenly gift and shared in the Holy Spirit, and have tasted the goodness of the Word of God and the power of the age to come, and then have fallen away, to restore them again to repentance, since they are crucifying once again the Son of God in their own harm and holding him up to contempt.
So what this verse is about, from what I understand, I think if you read it in context, it's a little clearer. What it's about is talking about the sacrifice of bulls and goats, is what it's comparing to. So it's saying that underneath that old law of the bulls and goats, because it's comparing with like the one sacrifice. Look at Hebrews 7:27, where it talks about how like basically all of our sins are covered once and for all because of the high priest, which is Jesus. And so it's referring to that, and it's comparing. If is that right? I mean, it's been a minute since I looked at this verse, and I believe that this is the case. But I think what it's saying is like underneath the laws of bulls and goats, you would have to continually go ahead and get cleansed from your sins, but you don't have to now underneath Jesus, because he is the one redeemer for all of our sins once and for all. So that's why. So look later on 7:27. I can remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that's what it means. Do you?
I'll leave it there. I would want to look at some commentaries before I comment too much on it, because I want to refresh myself on it. But yeah, I would say it might be using an aspect of hyperbole as well. So this is like Jesus says, like, you have to hate your father and mother if you love me. He's obviously being hyperbolic there. So keep that in mind. That's also a possibility. Hey guys, I'm writing an argument of essay for the historical evidence for the resurrection. I have to use a database approved by my college. Any advice for sources? How should I go about it? Check out Andrew Loke's book on the resurrection. I think it's pretty good. Mike Lacona's got a good book on that.
I love like Mike Lacona's book. If you wanted something for college specifically, I think it's good because it does make a real attempt to try to make the evidence as objective as possible, so you can argue both sides decently well. So that's why I enjoyed that book. Also liked what's his name? Peter. What is his name?
Van Wagen?
No. Is it Peter?
Is it Peter Kraft?
No.
You're hopeless. This is ridiculous.
He debated Dillahunty on Unbelievable.
All right. Well, look up. Type in YouTube. Go to Unbelievable. Type in Peter Matt Dillahunty. Whoever that is, get his
It
book.
might not be Peter. I have a bad memory.
You are
Let's see.
rooting the stream, John McRae. Okay.
What is it? Yeah, but his book is really good too. It's on the Gospels. Let me see. I'll find it. If so, I'll
Find
tell
it.
you.
I'll do this next question because it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
As a post-mill, can you interpret Zechariah 12? Is it regarding the second coming when they see God and mourn? Is it a text I can't make sense of? Well, I mean, let's go to this really quick. So Zechariah 12. I would say, because it's talking about him who they pierced, is commenting on that. I would say, so as a post-mill, I say a lot of the destruction texts refer to 70 AD, that destruction, and some of it's very hyperbolic is what I would say as well. And then if you check out my video on Jesus, the failed apocalyptic prophet, I note that prophecy is conditional and there can be delays if not all the stipulations have been fulfilled. So based on like Matthew 23, when Jesus says all the blood shall be poured on this generation, well, that did happen when the temple was destroyed. So all of the apocalyptic destructive type texts are pointing to 70. However, in that same passage, Matthew 23, he says, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So he's saying there's a condition for even this. So the destruction texts are going to happen regardless. You can't get away from it. But the second coming could be delayed until Israel says, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So that's what I would say.
Are you a partial preterist?
Yeah.
Okay, I figured.
Yeah. Have you read the book Eucharist, Bishop, Church, The Unity of the Church? Oh, man. What is your view on ecclesiology? Modern Protestant seems to be complete innovation in ecclesiology. So depends on which type of Protestantism. Now, I've not read this book, fortunately. It's on my list, though, because you mentioned this author, and it's like, oh, wait, I think that's one of the things I need to read. I would say Lutherans, Anglicans, they do try to base their ecclesiology on what the early church fathers were going on. I know Jordan Cooper, who's a Lutheran, has done some stuff on this on YouTube. Checked it out. I got a chance to meet him earlier this year. So they're trying very much to base their stuff on what early church fathers are teaching, and then they just disagree with later Catholic doctrines would be their argument. So it depends on what type of Protestantism, because there's different types. I would say, maybe with some of the more evangelical groups that have really split off even further, possibly you'd have to talk to each Protestant group. It's hard to just lump it all together because it can be quite complex. Someone like John definitely is. So keep that in mind. Yeah, for sure.
I can't find that book right now, but there's so many good books on the resurrection. Even William Lane Craig's The Son of, The Son of Jesus, I think it's called, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And the book, Mike Licona and Gary Habermas wrote a short book, which was really good. That one's kind of a good layman's kind of view to it. But even all of William Lane Craig's work too, actually, on the resurrection is really good too, like on even in Reasonable Faith. But there's a lot, but I can't find that book that I'm thinking about. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Can you think of any other resurrection book that was like,
no? But check out
Andrew
N.T. Wright, The Resurrection of the Son of God. Yeah. But I got some problems with the first few chapters based on some of the work Nathan Nadeau has done. But his later chapters, I think, are good in terms of arguing what the New Testament teaches. It's a very long book, so keep that in mind. But yeah, that's another pretty good book. Next super chat. Have you seen Max McLean's stage production, C.S. Lewis on Stage, The Most Reluctant Convert, or the movie based on the on-stage production? No, sorry, I have not.
I haven't either.
You should, though. You do that kind of stuff. What's wrong with you?
No.
Question for John. Why do Americans care about celebs?
I mean, I think it's human nature almost for people to, because I think that our natural tendency and our sin nature is to elevate people. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's just what people tend to do, is they like to see something. I think that, and I should do a video on this one day, but I think that it points to our tendency to look towards God, I think, to try to see somebody that's elevated, you know what I mean? And then we falsely elevate other people. But I think it's just a natural human tendency, I think. I don't believe necessarily it's just Americans. I mean, if you look in South Korea, or North Korea, you have like Kim Jong-un and everybody's wall, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, I think there's just always that sort of thing where people just look up to people. I think it's innate in humans. And But yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, we're a tribalistic species,
Yeah.
and we tend to uh, create hierarchy, and so we have certain leaders that we want to get behind.
Yeah.
That we can deify in ways that we shouldn't. So
Yeah.
I think that's just human nature.
And yeah, so by the way too, so that if the question is more about why do I cover what celebrities say, well, I think that's the reason why. It's because they have influence in culture, and so we have to have, I believe, some Christian voices that can respond to what they say and articulate them, so that way we can use those as arrows that point towards the gospel.
Hopefully, we get somebody someday to do that.
Yeah, hopefully.
I don't know anyone does that. Sup, guys?
So
Watch the most recent debate David Wood had with Pikachu. Why doesn't that guy move from the West since it is so terrible?
yeah,
So so I studied him extensively for my debate, and
Pikachu?
Hakikachu.
Yeah, that's what he's Pikachu.
I see that, yeah.
That's pretty.
But he says he's taking care of his parents, from what I've heard. Now I don't know about anything about his personal life, but I think that's a legitimate reason if you have family to stay in the country. That's why I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, but he kind of stuttered when.
Why he stuttered?
It's like, oh well, the reason why. I mean, we all know why. I mean,
Yeah, I'd say once his parents pass, it's gonna make it much harder excuse. He should be moving to these countries and trying to help build the Islamic utopia he thinks Islam creates. But I get the whole family situation thing, so I'm willing to be charitable in that, even though this is about someone who's not charitable. Are you finally joining us, or are you just gonna stand over us like a
Get
creep?
your dumb cord out of the way.
Dumb cord out of the way is what he said. All right, we are being joined by somebody named. What's your name again? I don't know who you are.
D-Dog Dizzle. Why am I all the way on like one edge?
yeah.
We'll move over then.
Move
You're
down.
explaining.
There you go. See, look, now we're all spread out. See that?
All right.
Hey, if John were in the middle, we'd be a reverse Oreo.
We should go live on my channel later, and then we can be an Oreo, because I have to sit in the middle. So we should do that.
It's a reverse Oreo, dude.
Y'all
It's the
are-
exact opposite.
All right. Have you ever dealt with doubt? How do you deal with it? You're here. How do you deal with doubt?
No clue.
All right. How do you deal with doubt?
Don't have any.
I think a lot of us too, like that, end up doing like apologetics and stuff. We're naturally kind of skeptical about a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I think that I like Gary Habermas when he made a distinction between emotional doubt and volitional doubt, and I think the other one was an intellectual doubt. And in there, I think that's helpful, because I've had times where I've had emotional doubts, but wasn't necessarily like didn't trace it back to see if it was purely emotional. I was thinking it was intellectual when it wasn't. And so I think what I tend to do is, if I feel like I'm having a doubt or whatever, I just think it through. So I just say, okay, going back to the beginning, like what do I believe and why? And then I just run through in my head, and then that tends to help. So
Yeah. I would say, first of all, accept that you have doubt. Don't run from it. Don't be afraid of it. You need to accept it's just part of human nature. And that's okay. We all have doubts. And just remember, as you go through doubts, remember Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is wicked, deceitful of all else, who can understand it? A lot of those are going to come from places of emotion, and then just go back to the reasonable arguments Christianity has that no other worldview has. So evidence for God's existence, the resurrection, reliability of the New Testament, these kinds of things. I heard from someone one time who says he suffers from doubts, and he just sometimes plays my videos just in the background. It just sort of help him deal with that. So
You hear this? If you're having doubts, just play inspired philosophy videos all day long. Just loop them all day long.
that's a horrible impression.
But also too, on that, I'd say is don't let doubts go to waste as well too, because you can use those as opportunities to dwell into why you doubt, get answers to questions that you might be wrestling with too. So there's a sunny side to doubt that I think you should take advantage of as well.
Yeah, and I would say since I became a Christian, I haven't doubted kind of the big issues. All kinds of doubts on the narrower issues. So there are lots of issues where I have at some point been on every side of an issue, like theistic evolution, old Earth, younger. I've been on every side of those issues at some point or another. And so lots of other things. Like I can listen to a Calvinist and say, wow, great points there. You got some great points there. I can listen to Armenian. Yeah, got a good point there. Got a good point there. So I can listen to all kinds of, I can listen to a Catholic or Orthodox. I can listen to anyone. And I can say, okay, I don't know about that. So anyway, it's kind of cool because on those kinds of issues, on these sort of narrower issues, I've always been pretty content in saying, all right, maybe at some point I'll study those specific issues. In the meantime, I'll leave it to people who studied a lot more than I do.
Yeah. Appreciate your ministry, Michael. Do you plan to evaluate the argument from psychological harmony or psychophysical harmony in the future? Yes, it's on my list. Again, it's just when can I get to it? It's another one of those things. It's like, look, right now I'm doing New Testament and Old Testament stuff, specifically Old Testament, because not a lot of people are doing that. And I'm doing my reliability of the gospel series because I think there's a lot of evidence that has not been presented online that I want to utilize. So you'll see some stuff coming out in that series.
Well, if you do a lot of Old Testament stuff, you're going to keep running into Muhammad.
Oh, he's in every passage. Anytime you see the letter M, it's probably Muhammad or 10,000
or even God, because we've got multiple passages where it talks about Yahweh, and they say, "See, it's Muhammad. This is the proof."
Thank you for becoming a YouTube member, Beef Bar the Bard. Works, but yeah,
that's what you should have named your channel.
Yeah, I look because when you look at me, you think Beefy Bard. Hey, Mike, I think you said in one of your vids on Christ's return that part of the process of it depends on Christians spreading the gospel. What happens if believers don't fulfill this? Because my position is that Christ will work through the body to eventually do it. And again, if you were to go back 2,000 years and see the world we have now, people would think you were living in the resurrection period just from the amount of technology and good that we have here. They would feel like we were living in a paradise. And so how did we get from point A to point B? Well, Christianity was crucial in that, and Christianity will be crucial into getting us to that period. We just have to trust Christ's plan and keep spreading the gospel, and we will get there, on my view, which is the post-mill view.
Yeah, I don't have a solid view on eschatology. I lean toward dispensationalism. But I mean, it's something that I haven't I hold with an open hand, so I'm not really sure. So I'm not sure if I agree with Michael's view. Who knows? We'll see.
Look, even if you don't agree with my view, you should be living like a post-mill.
You're a preterist, so
a partial preterist.
Full preterist.
No, you should be. Every Christian should be living
better
like a
preterist than a pedophile. Since I heard you guys in here referring to some people who support child marriage,
stay away from Islam. Right. I was learning about what is the
jihad? Oh,
Ghassanids, or I'm sorry, and in some practice, what monophysitism? I'm under the understanding that this is a heretical view. What in the Bible could support the idea this is heretical? Honestly, I do not remember what these terms mean.
Monophysitism? Is that like a...
What do you think Google's for, man?
Monophysitism?
Don't go to OnlyFans.
You are horrible. Asserted that the one per... okay. Now I remember. Yeah. I knew it sounded familiar.
Well, that seems obviously wrong, right?
Divine nature rather than two natures. So,
because you have like First John and stuff, like specifically arguing against that because of the Docetists and stuff at the time. So, yeah. So,
not proto-Gnostics, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah. And, I guess.
So, I mean, I would say it's pretty clear that Jesus is man and he also is God. Yeah. I don't take this whole... The church has clearly declared that as heretical. I don't think they can profess the Nicene Creed. I just don't think that can work. Jesus has two natures. He is fully man and fully God. So this is something that I think is just outside of the reigns of orthodoxy.
From what I understand, this is specifically what John was arguing against in First John. And there's somewhere else too where this discussion is being had. And the Docetists were like the early Gnostics. From what I understand, from what I've read, is that he was responding to the Docetists. Well, that's what I've read.
No.
But he was responding to the Docetists.
I think you could argue it either way.
You said what?
I said I think you could argue it either way.
What?
That you could say they're proto-Gnostics or proto-Docetists and so.
Yeah. Proto. I just say make sure you use the term proto because we're talking about first century here. Let's say that. Yeah.
Michael's used to being wrong. So.
Well, no. Here are 75 scholars.
And here's what the scholars say.
My favorite thing
Bruce Ruffles says in his
you've never read this paper by Dr. Uppingfloth.
I love how they're insulting me by saying I'm smart. So that's how I get insulted by people. Are like, you are so smart, loser. Thank you for the
You and your sources.
It's funny is that Daniel Kijiu was mocking me for researching. It was one of my favorite things ever. Thank you for the super chat, Clays. Thank you for the super chat, Brody. Was the Catholic Church as big as a collaborator with Hitler as they made it out to be? No. Check out a book called Church of Spies. It's about the Pope's secret war, where he gave the German resistance the full right to murder Hitler, to assassinate him, because it would have been holy. The Catholic Church was not in cahoots with Hitler. They were working against him. The Pope was involved in 3 failed assassination attempts. Like, at one point, the bomb just didn't go off. The Catholic Church was not collaborating with Hitler. They were trying to kill him. Okay, they were not on the same team.
And just keep in mind, it was unfolding over time how much people knew about what this dude was even doing, right? Because as far as people are aware of, he's taking people to work camps and labor camps and stuff like that to work. So lots of people didn't know what's going. Like even me and AP were just talking about this is in Elie Wiesel's Night, where there was a guy who escaped from a concentration camp, ran back to town and warned the Jews, guys, do you know what they're doing? And they're like, you're crazy. There's no way people are doing. There's no way Germans are the most enlightened people around. They're the ones producing all the operas. They're the ones who have all the great physicists. These are the smartest people. You think they're rounding up people and putting them in camps and putting them into ovens? Are you crazy? They did not take the warning, and these people were eventually rounded up. So notice, I mean, even when people were warned about what's going on, a lot of people for a long time resisted even the idea that this is going on. Like this, there's no way this is going on. Yeah. And so you had a lot of the people who put up with and tolerated Hitler for a long time were people who just didn't know what was going on.
Oh, wait. Yeah, this is the next one here. Okay. For John, read Rape of Nanking by Iris Chang. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, if you're going to read it, it's going to be very depressing. Why
are they telling John to read this?
I think he's from Japan, and he's asking.
No, he's from Korea. He's from South Korea.
Oh, is he?
I know from
he asked me what I knew about Japanese imperialism, right? Same guy.
Yeah, he's from South Korea.
No, it's brutal, and this is another example of people don't understand what it's like.
I'll read it, by the way. Thank you.
People don't understand what it's like to not be in a country massively influenced by Christianity. But yeah, the Rape of Nanking. So, did you guys already talk about it?
No.
Okay,
I've talked about it in videos.
Yeah, so the Japanese they conquer the area and so on, but they're raping Chinese girls like it's a sport. They built special chairs, right? They constructed chairs to keep the girls strapped in with their legs open, so they can just be raped one after another anytime. They had, keep in mind, these people they'd been conquered. They're all war captives, but Japanese leaders would have beheading contests to see who could be the fastest to run around beheading 100 random Chinese people and so on.
It was horrible.
And keep in mind, guys, this is not that long ago, and this was completely acceptable. And we would take it as soldiers can't do that. You can't do that sort of thing. Right. We've been influenced in the West by what's called just war theory, which is when Christians had to sort of reconcile. Wait a minute, we're supposed to love our enemies, and we're supposed to love everyone. And yet it's clear that governments do have a role in fighting against evildoers and so on. So there is a place for war. So how do we reconcile these things? And they come up with basically rules for warfare and how not to cross certain lines. And that has become normal, right? You can have a soldier who does something evil. He'll get court-martialed, or someone might cover it up. The point is, we think it's bad. You either have to cover it up because it's bad, or you get in trouble for it. But we don't just think, oh, it's a war, so you can run around doing whatever you want. Yeah. But anyway, notice that's sort of a Christian concept that then gets imposed on the rest of the world. So and you get to the point where the world people just think, oh, this is how human beings are. Right. We understand you don't do those kinds of things. No, you don't just understand that this is how you act.
My Muslim friend told me that Islam came up with just war theory. Where that, David?
Where? I've studied just war theory. I never saw Islam in there anywhere.
Yeah, people
like you could actually point to some proto just war theory in some Greeks and Romans and so nothing like you get among the Christians. But I don't remember Islam even even coming up. You can point to things in the Muslim sources where Muhammad and his followers weren't being as bad as some other people. So you can point to things in there, but just war theory is like it's an issue in philosophy that's applied practically to real world situations.
You can find it in Augustine, so before Islam. So keep that in mind here. So yeah. So what was different with getting into heaven or hell before Christ died? Did everyone go to hell because all have sinned? So traditional church teaching is that that saints will go to like a separate place. So this is like Jesus's parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Like those that reject God go to like the place where they're, like they're in torment. So, and I would say it's mental anguish. And then those that sort of were waiting on the Messiah go to a place with like a holding cell kind of thing. So that's that. I know some theologians have said that maybe they were just sleeping in the grave, like they were actually like, sort of like, like in, I guess like a state of a coma, perhaps. Then Christ sort of raises and they all go up with him kind of thing. So there's different takes on that, is from what I can remember in terms of that. So some also think they just went to heaven, like the Messiah sort of like when they die, like for Abraham were to die, he's going to go outside of time, and therefore the atonement covers that, so he gets to go to heaven regardless.
Yeah, the most popular views that I've heard, I think, are that it was like a retroactive, like applied to them back then, and I think even the Jews still believe that they were saved by grace through faith, so they still they'd be saved the same way, but whether or not, I think that it was. So I mean, I would probably lean that way, where it's just like retroactive towards the people who died before Christ, since he died for all people all the time. So.
Saw a few videos that there is no proof that Moses existed, or at very least did not write any chapters in the Bible. Have any info to dispute that? Yeah. Check out my series, Exodus Rediscovered. It's a documentary series. I divided into 3 parts. So Exodus, wandering period, and then conquest. And in the wandering period, I give a little evidence that there has to be at least a Moses figure. And just giving evidence for the Exodus is going to help support the Exodus narrative. And so, check out that series. That should help you. A lot of good evidence for the Exodus in that, and also I include some evidence for Moses. So check that out. Q for both of you. So get the hell out of here. Yeah. How's your day so far?
Look at this, racist. Both you white people. Is what it is. Question for both the white people.
Yes, it was a little too bright
racist stuff.
Oh, it's great.
I need more color. Yeah.
I talked to some scholars I've been trying to get a hold of. They come on my channel. So that was good to finally get to meet them, and we'll schedule that stuff coming out in 2024. Great talk on Genesis. William Lane Craig was there. Then I went to a talk on the Trinity. Craig was there as well. Then I went to some Old Testament stuff, hung out with some other scholars as well. So really great time. How about you? You got here like an hour ago.
Yeah. So but thank you for asking. I actually worked this morning. I recorded a interview with Robert Spencer.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Working and then flying. That's exactly what I did. Yeah. I was up all day yesterday. Then I stayed up all night with my son. Had to head to the airport around.
Well, David, nobody asked.
4:45. They said both white people. Are you deaf? I had to head out about 4:45. So right before that, I recorded the video. Got to the airport. Started editing it. Fell asleep on the plane. Finished editing when I got here. Passed out. Then went and had dinner with Dan Brubaker and Jay Smith and some others. I came back here and had you guys waste my entire evening.
I had dinner with William Lane Craig and Andrew Loke, Timothy Stratton. Yeah, so top that.
Timothy Stratton.
You call him Timothy?
Timothy Stratton. Yes, that's his full name.
Timothy.
So he's a doctor now.
It's Timothy S. Stratton.
It's pronounced Timothy. Okay, get it right. Timothy.
Timotheus.
All right. This is a question for David. For you, are you guys gonna join Dr. Falk for D&D this Friday? No, I'm flying out Friday morning. I didn't even know he was doing that until like a week ago.
They're playing D&D.
Yeah. So we're actually gonna be all gone, I think, by then, because the conference is over Thursday,
That's
and so
super cool.
I got to get back to a family that's unfortunately sick now. So
Unfortunately, oh man.
yeah, my daughter's got pink eye.
Oh no, I'm being attacked by a red dragon. I raise my wand of fortitude against it.
You gotta interview Dr. Falk at some point. That you gotta do that. So
Dr. Falk, why do you love D&D so much?
Because it's so great. It's the greatest thing ever. Have you seen Stranger Things?
Stranger Things is dope. Do you believe it was moral at one point in history to kill people for engaging in homosexual acts? If you lived then, would you have killed them? So my take on this is that, again, if you check out my video, The Misunderstood Mosaic Law, the Mosaic Law is not really a law. It's more like wisdom for judicial processes. And the Mosaic Law, the Torah really, has stipulations in it to talk about going to see judges to dispute these kinds of things. So it's not laying down like minimal punishment. It's the Torah is exhortational, or it's didactic. It's expressing the moral importance of something, not saying that these are like the law codes for Israel. So I compare it to Proverbs in that video, give a lot of scholarly support. So I don't think that's really what the Mosaic Law is getting at with regards to this. I don't think, I go by the ethics of the New Testament. Jesus says love, not to dole out punishments. That's his job. So no, we don't engage as Christians, especially in ever killing someone for homosexual activity. That'd be horrible. So yeah.
Yeah, a couple issues, because even on something like the Old Testament, right? There are a bunch of different ways to look at it, and there are a bunch of different positions. So you laid out one. I've also seen people who believe that there's a ransom system, that all these these laws about, and this is a death sentence, that people are constantly doing things that are under a that put them under a death sentence, and you paid a ransom for your life. You paid, there was a ransom for your life, and that this is actually like setting up leading up to the sacrifice of Jesus and so on. And that some of the evidence that's actually in that's in the Old Testament because of this, when you get to the punishment for capital murder, it says, and for this you do not accept a ransom.
Yeah.
Which suggests that for the other crimes you could accept some sort of ransom. So that's one issue. Another kind of issue is when you're led out of captivity by a pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire that's punishing your enemies, parting the Red Sea, performing constant miracles, there becomes an added dimension to any command, right? So notice right now I'm talking about just if you go strictly with just what it says, and the death penalties are death penalties, and there is no ransom system, and it's not like anything Mike just said. If it's the way someone might read it and just go through it and says these are all commands, and this is the law that was laid down there. Notice there's an extra component. If I come up to you and I say, here's the rule about how you have to live your life and so on, and if you disagree with me, I'm gonna sentence you to death. That's one thing. If a pillar of fire there says, oh, by the way, if you do this, then you're in trouble. That's a different sort of rebellion than me saying, hey, I disagree with you on this moral issue. That's you in open rebellion against something clearly miraculous and indisputable. At that point, it doesn't matter if you're picking up a stick, right? Don't pick up that stick. I'm gonna pick it up anyway. I don't care what you say. Okay, you've just declared your rebellion against the deity that can smite you in a moment because you've just witnessed it. And so even if you just go straight forward, not trying to interpret it and not looking at any scholarly background, it is exactly what it says. You have a particular covenant there. You do not have to go under that covenant. The border was a couple miles. The border was a couple miles over there if you don't want to be part of this covenant. And people often overlook that there were other things. You're not going to have any miscarriages. It's God is going to miraculously preserve your community in exchange for you following these rules. So in that sort of situation, you step out, you've got a pillar of fire, you've got a pillar of cloud, who you're rebelling against, and you say, and that this is the sort of blessing on your community that is preserving you. And you say, you know what? I don't care, pillar of fire. I'll do what I want. That's kind of a difference. That's a different sort of thing. Notice we're not in that situation right now. We're not in that situation anymore where you've got, notice, If God just appeared right now before us and said, these are the rules, and you say, I don't care, that's a different sort of situation than us having normal debates over moral issues and so on. So anyway, point is, there's a lot of things involved there.
All right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not trying to start a civil war, but what are your views on the opinion of Ellen G. White's writings or thoughts? Okay.
I think we'll all be on the same page.
We'll be all be on the same page with that. No, she's not a prophetess.
No, she's a prophet.
She's a prophet.
You see?
How dare you?
She is Allah's.
Okay.
She is Allah's final messenger.
Who's a more
Wait, who's a better?
Is that where you're going? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Who's more likely to be a true prophet?
Yeah,
Ellen
that's
G.
exactly
White
what I
or
was gonna
Muhammad? Go with Ellen G. White all day long.
So
The Seventh Day Adventists gave us graham crackers, man. They came up with graham
What if-
crackers. How are you going to argue with that?
What if Ellen G. White is Allah's final messenger?
I'll tell you what. If Muslims had invented graham crackers, they would be shouting it from the rooftops. That's proof that Islam is true.
How could Islam be false if it gave us graham crackers?
Yeah.
Exactly. So no, we don't think she's a prophetess. I got a lot of problems with her. And
Yeah, even but if you go to books like even I think the Kingdom of the Cults, I think it was Kingdom of the Cults, they put Seventh Day Adventists in a different category from cults, because cults traditionally deny the core doctrines of Christianity. The Seventh Day Adventists have it, but they're tacking on a bunch of other stuff, and so it's kind of a different category. It's like cults are like not enough. You don't have enough basic truth there. Whereas
John is literally ordering food while we're doing a stream here.
Well, because John didn't eat dinner because they went without me. So
you were late.
I was early.
DW won last 3 debates and loved you humbling Daniel today.
No, I heard you got smoked by Aaron Raw, and you were close to. And when he's talking about not having doubts, that's not what I heard after your debate with Aaron Raw.
And he said you both agree on divine command theory, except David would not agree with child marriage. What happened with Daniel today?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, you got him.
I've had 0 interactions with Daniel.
Yeah, well, you're lucky. I mean,
in a long, long time.
What are your views on classical Pentecostalism? Are they true believers? So, again, as long as they reject the Trinity, no. If they're Trinitarian, I'm open to it. But oneness Pentecostal, for example, out. So I think if Pentecostals accept core doctrines like Trinity, resurrection, virgin birth. Sure.
So here's a question though: How do you justify that? Like Romans 8. I mean, what is that? John 8:54. I think
you're doing good. You're doing great here.
Yeah, John 8:48, isn't it? Well, it's the only passage because I was just
say the verse.
What is your justification for saying that oneness aren't saved? I'm not saying they are. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I'd say they're denying Trinitarian theology. So here's the thing. I wouldn't say they're not saved. I'd say they're outside of the body of Christ. So maybe I should word it that way.
Right.
And
but
so
I was just thinking about that verse though, where he says, "Unless you believe that I am, you will die in your sins." Remember Jesus says, I think it's John 8:48. If I remember.
Yeah, I just think the oneness. I think modalism, for example, is just ridiculous. It doesn't make sense with the scriptures, with the separation between the Son and the Spirit and the Father. But I mean, again, I wouldn't say that non-Trinitarians are necessarily damned. I just say they're outside of the body of Christ because they're denying an essential doctrine.
Right. Yeah.
Did you guys attend the panel discussion on historical Adam? If so, what are your thoughts? Yes, I did.
Oh, how was it?
It was great. I thought William Lane Craig did wonderful. Andrew Loke did wonderful. Marcus Ross was there. A great guy. He said a lot of good things. I disagree with him on a lot of other things. And who was the 4th guy? Crap. Wow. So, yeah, forget the 4th guy, unfortunately. Sorry about that. There was a lot because there was also respondents. So Joshua Swaminoff got up there to respond. There was a young Earth creationist who also responded. Faz Rana also did a response. So there was a lot happening there. And then there was a Q&A after. So there was a lot really just going on there.
What do you think is better, William Lane Craig's presentation on the historical Adam or Daniel Hakikachu's defense of child marriage?
Oh, that's a tough one. They're both so good at this.
You see, they don't understand. Lots of the Dawah guys don't understand sarcasm. They're like, "Oh, we agreed. Oh my goodness! Whoa. You see it? We got the video clip."
The 4th guy was Ken Sparks, and yeah, I thought Ken Sparks had some interesting takes. I disagree with his overall view because he kind of like leans away from an historical Adam. But yeah, it was interesting. I hope it gets online because I highly recommend people watch that. Any videos or verse of an existential crisis would be greatly appreciated. Love both your channels. Oh, for next, okay, check out my video on depression. That might be helpful. Check out my video, Does God Send People to Hell? My video, What is Heaven? Check out my video, The Absurdity of Christianity. Those might be helpful for that. But the one on depression might be pretty helpful, I'd say.
Yeah. So all advice
David,
is
they
all
weren't asking you?
advice is
No.
just revolve your whole life around IP's videos.
Well, that's what I make it for, so people can have videos they need. Daniel or David, whatever the hell your name is. What's the scariest book in the Bible?
Ooh, I can tell you the book that always like gives me pause when I read it is Judges. Every time I read Judges, I'm like, whoa.
I mean,
That's interesting. That's scary because it depends on what you mean by scary,
Yeah.
like scary from God or scary from other stuff. But yeah, Judges is a good example in that it's like the Mad Max movies. Like when people start turning away, you don't have a concept of how far people can go.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I'd say Job. I'd say Job
Mm.
can be kind of scary if you think about it. So I'd go there for sure. Are you pro-Israel? David, are you pro-Israel?
It depends on what you mean by pro-Israel.
Exactly. Are you
I
pro-Israel?
am.
No, I'd say the same thing. It obviously depends on what you mean.
I mean,
I definitely lean more pro-Israel
Yeah,
than
they're-
pro-Palestine in this conflict. But I've been looking at it a lot, pretty closely, and I don't have a predisposed dog in the fight. I don't feel like if Israel's wrong, Israel's wrong. You know what I mean? It's not to me. You don't have to defend bad
Look,
behavior no matter what your views are, even if you're a dispensationalist and stuff.
my take is render to Caesar what Caesar, render to God what's God. Right now, this is not the focus of this channel. That's not what I'm going to do. There will be wars and conflicts. We just need to keep spreading the gospel and be on God's side. That's what we need to focus on. Don't get into these political issues because honestly, neither side will come out looking perfect or clean. And when you get on this, people get very tribal and they're just going to defend whichever side they want and say this side is the good side, that's the bad side. And they'll look at it very black and white. Don't do that. And just focus on what Christ commanded.
Yeah, and notice, I mean, for me, it's similar to the question of like, are you pro-America?
Right.
Well, you'd have to clarify what you mean because yes, I'm pro.
CIA.
Yeah, I'm pro that, just like pro Mossad. But yeah, I mean, pro like a lot of the ideals of America and the existence of America and the preservation of America. Does America,
you're a Zionist.
is America doing all sorts of screwed up stuff and have lots of crazy people with crazy ideas in it? Yeah. And so you have to be, so, but notice if the moment you said I'm pro-Israel or I'm pro-America, someone would zero in on like, but look at this. Therefore, you're saying you approve of this thing. And
yeah, I got a joke for you guys. Okay, why do they call it the IRS and not just IRS? Because it's theirs. There you go. You get it. Because it's theirs. You look at your money.
I get it.
All right. Would it be correct to say that for the Trinity, the oneness of God is derived from their nature and essence rather than the quantity of persons? Well, yeah, you have this idea of the divine nature and they all partake in the divine nature. So, yeah, you kind of have that idea. If that's what you're getting at. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on which.
It's like that Thomas view, right? Or
perhaps.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
It depends on your view of the Trinity.
Right,
so,
yeah.
I'm a monarchical Trinitarian. So, I say the true God is the Father. So he's the only God in a numerical sense, and the Son and the Spirit are God in a predicative sense. So Bo Branson, Joshua Sijuwati, really great on that. So check that out.
Sounds heretical to me.
Well, it isn't. It's what the church fathers taught. Look it up. Can you give me book recommendations
Sounds pretty heretical
for free will and God's sovereignty? Yeah, Tim Stratton's work. I'm sorry, Timothy Stratton.
Doctor
S. Stratton,
the third.
Esquire.
The third. Check out his books on that. William Lane Craig as well on that.
I think of the best book I've read on that topic. Yeah, I don't have.
I think that's Stratton's wheelhouse. Just check that out.
Yeah.
I'd say go there. And then William Lane Craig as well is pretty good.
It's interesting because in philosophy, you deal with it more as far as the materialism and being deterministic, and how do you reconcile, that with free will. But normally, if you read a book on what's called the free will problem, this would be comparing hard determinism and compatibilism and libertarianism. There would usually be like a chapter that then goes through the theological version of this. And so, yeah.
Dill Hunty versus Andrew debate. Thoughts? Now, that was the one that I believe that
Then he stormed out of. He rage quit.
All right. So, yeah, I think James handled that well. I know he's been criticized
Oh,
for that.
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
honestly,
it happened like only 20 minutes into it, so I'm probably gonna watch it with AP because I still haven't watched it. This was right after my debate, and I was hanging out with Eric Hernandez and a couple other guys afterwards, and then someone was on their phone like, Dillahunty just walked out.
Yeah, I saw him tweeting about it. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm never gonna step foot on
Look,
that platform again.
I honestly don't think either debater looked good. I don't think Matt should have walked out. That's his prerogative, though. And I don't like. And I think who handled it the best was James, who on the fly had to come up with something to deal with this whole walkout thing. So hats off to James for handling that well. But yeah, I'm not going to take either side on that one.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. I didn't see what Andrew was saying, but I heard what Matt said that Andrew said, and it did sound like Andrew's deliberately trying to provoke Matt with the way he's describing things. So there's that on the one hand, like you've got a debater who's deliberately trying to poke at another debater to try and set him off, to try and get him angry.
Mhm.
And so you can make up your mind on what you think about that. Then you've got Matt on the one hand. I think it's a mistake for Matt if he wants to engage in future debates to let people know that he's got a really, really soft spot right there.
Right.
And that if you want to completely derail him in any discussion, just start talking about trans stuff. He should have just been ice cold, gone through the arguments.
Exactly.
Even maybe if he wants to go that rate, start escalating in response, start blasting the other guy in response, and he's totally capable of doing that. So that's one thing. And at the same time, even if you want to say, again, I'll go through what Andrew actually said with AP to see the full context. But even if someone is just being a jerk, and you walk off stage, it just seems really hypocritical coming from a lot of the atheists. Because I mean, they spent the last 20 years. Christians are stupid. You're all stupid. You're bad for society. You're destroying the world. You're dumb. You're just the worst of the worst. All you want to do is kill everyone and kill all the gay people, kill everybody. And the moment anyone says, "You guys suck," oh my goodness, I can't believe you're talking to us like this. And it's like, oh, come on, man. I mean, again, it's one thing if it's a guy who's always nice and always nice and who doesn't insult the other side.
Yeah.
And people start coming guns blazing at him, versus someone who's been insulting Christians and so on for a long time, and someone comes in and says something in response. And I did see I watched some of Trent Horn's response, and he was talking about some of that. He was saying that, the way Dillahunty in his opening is talking about how evil Christians are in society for what they're doing and what they want to do with the LGBTQ community and so on. And then apparently Andrew, again, I'm going with Trent Horn's description of what happened, but then Andrew basically applies sort of the same argument in reverse. No, actually, you guys are bad for society because of the way you're doing it. And Matt rage quits. But again, I mean, this is pending whether AP actually wants to check this out. But yeah, I will put in a vote for me and AP actually watching the entire thing so everyone knows, because this is important, right? It isn't. I mean, we've seen very recently people just completely derailing debates, and frequently involving. Even with Matt, and Daniel telling him, well, you won't say that to my face and stuff. And it seems like debates might be devolving. So it might be good to go through and try to figure some things out.
Yeah. So, all right. Tips for Christians listening to Myth Vision. So do you guys know what Myth Vision is?
That sounds familiar, but I can't.
It's Derek, right?
Derek Lambert. Yeah. So
we've had him on there. We've had him on. I think we've had him on with you before.
Yeah. I mean,
we've had him on a live stream with you.
What's controversial about him?
So he's an atheist. He's not a mythicist, but he does lean towards like the idea of the Gospels are myths, so they're later legendary accounts. There's a lot of problems there. Lately, he's gotten he posted a video about like prepare for war with like apologists. So
why are Christians listening to him? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, he puts out a lot of content. It's going to show up in their feed. I get it. So, I mean, just remember, a lot of times when you're seeing things like he's like some of the stuff like you're going to get, for example, like, I don't know, like Dennis McDonald, for example, that's not even Bart Ehrman looks at some of that stuff and goes, that's not accurate. Or some of the stuff that you will see on there, it's not even entirely Derek's view. So he'll have Richard Carrier on, and he's not himself a mythicist. So sometimes he's pushing stuff that or not pushing, but he's interviewing people that he doesn't entirely agree with on. So just take a look at some of the stuff and be like, realize that sometimes a lot of this stuff there can be kind of fringe, not going to be accepted by mainstream scholars, even by those by like Bart Ehrman, for example. And then sometimes he has like, but recognize that that's coming from more of the atheist side. So he does have Bart Ehrman on. I did see recently, I think he had Bart Ehrman on, for example. So he's going to push a lot of different views. A lot of stuff is going to lean more towards the liberal side of scholarship. Balance that out by watching some stuff on, for example, Capturing Christianity, stuff on my channel, stuff on David's channel. Mike Lacona has got a channel. Balance it out. Don't just take one side, get the other side. I see a lot of people deconvert because I saw this atheist say this, and I'm like, well, did you even bother to check to see what the other side was saying? Because Mike Lacona's got a lot of good responses to Bart Ehrman on stuff like this. Testify is another great channel that has a lot of good stuff on that. Exploring Reality, another great channel where we've responded to some of Derek's stuff before. So check out some of that stuff. Always balance it out with getting the other side. I think it's great that we hear the other side and we listen to them and we hear their arguments and we try to respond, but hear them, but then just go listen to the other side. So if you're going to watch Myth Vision, fine, but balance it out with watching the other side of the conversation so we get a more balanced view. All right. How do you approach women's role in the church when reading Timothy? Are female pastors objectionable? So I think 1 Timothy 2 is mistranslated. I don't think Paul is saying that women are not allowed to teach. There's some books on that I've recommended in the past. 2 Timothy 3, I think, does say that in terms of the head of a church needs to be, that's been designated to a male authority. However, I think women can be in teaching roles. I think Junia, for example, is an apostle. John Chrysostom thought she was, for example. And the scholarly consensus is she was. So women can be in teaching roles, maybe not in a headship sense. And that has nothing to do with men being better than women, because we're not. That's like the Levites being appointed as the priests. Why? God's divine appointment. It had nothing to do with Levi being special. This was just divine appointment. So God has said that in the head of a church needs to be, it said the way Timothy words is husband of one wife. And by the way, the way the church fathers understood that was the church fathers said, that's not just outlawing polygamy. That's saying if you're a pastor and you get married and she were to die before you, you can't get remarried. You're celibate. You have one wife per life. So if you have a pastor that was like divorced and remarried, that's against 1 Timothy 3. If you're a pastor, you have one wife per your life. You have to represent Christ, undying love for the church. So yeah, I think women can be in teaching roles, can be in leading roles. But I think that the head of a church, 1 Timothy 3 does say that is a husband of one wife. So that's the way I look at it. Yeah.
No, priests don't have wives.
Well, in the Catholic Church, after the 1000 or so, yeah. I'm looking at it from just what
better y'all than me.
I'm looking at what Timothy says, that kind of thing. So yeah. Practical advice to witness to friends and family. Don't be like him.
This is I would normally recommend something like Greg Koukl's Tactics as sort of like foundational, just learning how to ask questions in a because notice you're talking about friends. There are two components here. If you're talking about friends and family, then in a way you're not going to be as aggressive towards them as to someone you don't like. But at the same time, because they're your friends and family, you actually have a little more freedom to deal with some of the issues because they know you have their best interest in mind. They're not going to think, oh, you're just an evil person trying to be mean to them. So anyways, like it's like with me and Nabil, once we became friends, then we could have discussions about Muhammad and Aisha and so on. He's not thinking, oh, he just hates Muslims and stuff like that. He understands. He knows I don't. He knows I didn't hate him or hate Muslims and so on. So yeah, but Greg Koukl's Tactics, a lot of people don't really think through their positions on lots of issues, and part of this is just helping people just realize, hey, where did I get that from? Mm-hmm. Why do I think that? Why do I believe that? How did I come to that conclusion? Yeah. and lots of, wow, I heard this from someone in 9th grade and I just absorbed it and it became part of my worldview and I never challenged it since then and so on. So yeah, I would say just start off with Greg Coco's Tactics, a very short book, very easy to read, and that will help a lot in your interactions with friends and family.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, or just reiterate it basically, is asking a lot of questions, because a lot of the times what people give is the reasons for why they reject Christianity, or even a lot of our practical beliefs. We don't realize like what the core is. That's why we go to therapists and stuff, because you have issues that are underneath things that you have to unpack. So asking a lot of questions, I think, is probably the most important thing you can do. And then also think about like, what are the things that are very important to them? And then how does Christianity solve problems in their lives? These are things to kind of think about, since you know the people, think about that over the spectrum of their lives and think how Christianity can solve some problems that they might want solved, and how the things that they're trying to use to solve those problems aren't cutting up as well.
I'm hoping you guys with Sam Shimon start an online university and offer courses to Christians to respond to Muslims on conflicting info in the Quran. You can do that? All right, that's not going to happen. David, can you guys create a Christian mouse to counter Farfor?
Yeah,
What is
you
that?
didn't see that?
No.
Farfor was this Palestinian mouse on Palestinian children's television.
Right.
Farfor, the mouse who would always blame the Jews when he didn't have his homework done and stuff like this, or when he was cheating on his test. Here's the Jews, they bombed my house.
You can't make this stuff up.
And then eventually his grandfather, who oddly enough is a human, his grandfather's dying, and he gives him the special document that's the right to the land of Israel, and gives him the key. But then the Jew finds out that he's got the land and the key, and he like murders him. He murders this children's mouse.
You should do one where that mouse meets Muhammad on Boom Boom Room.
Yeah, we could.
Oh, that would be funny.
Muhammad meets Farfor the mouse.
Why God invent Judaism just to have Christianity override it?
I check that. It's like it's along the lines of, hey, why do you tell your 8-year-old that he has to go to bed by a certain time when he's 20 years old, he doesn't have to do that? It's like can you imagine different rules for different situations? That's the basic principle.
The problem is this is equivocating. You're assuming Judaism is the Old Testament, and that's not true. Judaism is a more developed tradition, really coming from Talmud, Mishnah as well. So it's not just Old Testament. And so the Israelite religion of the Old Testament, you can see Judaism and Christianity both come out of that. Mm-hmm. But you can't say that that it's just
and the early Christians didn't think there's some new religion. This is the fulfillment.
Right,
Jesus is the Messiah. This is what all of this has been leading up to.
Right.
And you have like, even if you look into like even Dr. Heiser's work too on like the Trinity in the Old Testament, you'll see that it's the continuation, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's why you have Messianic Jews who.
Yeah. If you watch Jay Dyer's debate with Daniel Hakikachu, police be upon him. Jay Dyer presents a lot of good evidence for this idea of Trinitarian theology in the Old Testament. So for David, check out Hung Shush Kwan by any chance. I'd like to see a Boom Boom Room episode with the Chinese Joseph Smith / Muhammad. Yeah. I don't know if he's that much popular in the West.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know. Muhammad meets Hung Shi Kwan. I don't know about that one.
Yeah. It's got to make sure that we get an audience for it here. I don't know if he's that popular in the West. John, David, you guys both have been instrumental in my Christian walk, and I've received abundant life for each of you. Recently, my wife and I converted to Orthodoxy. Pray for us, please. Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Pray for them.
Yeah.
Right now. No,
I didn't see Michael.
No. Well, I didn't see John either. You're Jon. I don't know who this JOHN is.
Yeah, who's that?
No, that's great. Glad that we've been instrumental in your walk. Appreciate that.
David, love the long hair. What made you grow it out? What do you mean? Because hold on. First question. Okay, we know who made you grow your hair out. You can tell the audience now.
Oh, I mean, I've mentioned it before. I would prefer going just bald and keeping a beard. Although I have to say, Andrew Tate's kind of ruining that, because you're going to look now. It would look like, oh, you're trying to be like Andrew Tate or something like that. Even though that existed long before Andrew Tate. Anyway.
You look like Stone Cold Steve.
I mentioned to my wife, hey, I'm thinking about shaving my head. No. And then she informs me that she doesn't even like my short hair that I've always had. I don't like short hair. I like longer hair. And I'm like, what? After 20 years of marriage, you tell me you don't like my short hair? Anyway, she's like, yeah, you should grow it out. You look like a Viking warrior and blah, blah, blah. She's like, thinks I'm going to look like Fabio or some crap. Anyway, I think I'm going to look like an idiot. But anyway, yeah, my wife wanted to see me with longer hair, so I'm going to grow it out. And once it's grown up, basically going to grow it to ponytail length, which shouldn't be too much longer because it's almost that long right now. But I'll put it.
You need to have it straight.
I'm going to put it into a ponytail. And and also, and also I might go with a John Wick type thing or something like that. But I'm going to grow it out and I'll say, okay, now you've seen it at every length. Pick one, and I'm going to chop it down to that. And I'm hoping she says, yeah, you look like an idiot. Chop it all off and go ball.
All right, you've seen my tattoo, so that answers that question. What do you mean? Does your head have circulation that's strapped back, looking tight? What?
I was like, I just want to understand. So this is looking tight.
Okay, yeah,
it's actually really loose.
Yeah,
but then.
What's the best barbecue meat and why is it ribs? All right, well, it's because it's ribs. I mean, you get the thing about ribs is like holding a chicken leg in your hand. You feel there's something manly about it because it takes you back to sitting around the campfire with the hunter-gatherers eating off the bone. And it's like with ribs, it's the same thing. You're eating it off the bone and you get to there's something manly about that. I don't know. That's why. Daniel Pikachu says, if someone subjugates you, might as well be Islam. So stupid. Same logic of Megan. Oh,
yeah, she's the soccer player.
The soccer player, yeah. Proof God's not existing because of her injury.
She recently it was her final game and she got like a Achilles injury and went down and stuff, non-contact. And then she's in the interview afterwards and she's going, some people believe in God. Anyway, for me, this is proof God doesn't exist.
Oh, really?
Talk about insecure narcissism. It's all about me. And it's like, wow. Yeah. And so, yeah, be subjugated, might as well be Islam. No, I mean, like, there's another, that's Pikachu. It's either you accept Islam or you accept the other extreme, authoritarian, liberal, secular, not. It's one of the two. You can't.
It's always, there's always this false dichotomy. Andrew Tate just posted. He said, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want your kid trans or Muslim?
Yeah.
It's like, because those are the only two possibilities. One or the other.
Yeah. Hand me that other water bottle.
No way.
Yes way.
No, that's
right.
Yo, Dr. Dizzle, if all the Dawa guys had a battle royale, who would win? Oh, probably
gonna be what's his name?
Muhammad Hijab.
No, that's an illusion. The dude has a legit glass jaw. An old man at some protest just tapped him in there, and Hijab was like all disoriented and ready to fall over, and had to be escorted out by police. So he's got a glass jaw.
Maybe Ali Dawa would just scare everyone and go crazy, like be like hanging off walls and jumping in. You never see him coming, Who knows?
I'm trying to think,
yeah,
but
I'm trying to think too.
Hijab looks physically intimidating, and he's as long as he doesn't get tagged in the jaw, he's probably really strong. Yeah. I imagine he's slow, but I'm thinking someone else, but I mean, who else is there?
If it was
what's his name, Kenny Bomer.
If it was Christian apologist, there's a 2nd degree black belt right here. So,
oh my goodness, that's the nerdiest thing I ever heard. I wonder how long that would last.
Yeah,
as soon as I sock you in the grill.
Yeah, karate, that stuff. That just gives you a chance to scream before you get the crap out of you.
I'll wrestle you. I want to see a video with you and Wendigoon. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
There's a comic book villain who fought the Hulk called Wendigo.
Making a remix of the Dizzle.
Punchbowl haircut. He was he did a cover for the WhaddoMeme song, which was really cool. But he said he did remixes for you.
Oh, nice.
The one he did for me was really cool.
This one hits hard. Who wins in a slap contest? David or Daniel Akikachu? Keep in mind, Daniel is a seasoned vet because of all this. Wow. Like, I don't know if he does that.
Obviously, David.
Yeah, I think I'd win that one.
You don't feel pain.
So I summoned the fact that I was grown and raised in a trailer park.
Your thoughts on this argument? It isn't sinful to get a heart replacement. Thus, it wouldn't be sinful for gender transition because it would alleviate mental suffering, which many doctors agree on. Okay, problem with this. There's a difference because heart replacement would be fixing something in you that needs to be there for you to live. Gender transitioning, you don't need to live, and you're mutilating your body for something you think is going to cause alleviate mental suffering, and that doesn't work. So we got to be differentiate between these types of surgeries here. So, like for example, there's a difference between active and passive responses. So some people say you're going to actively mutilate someone or change their body because they think they need it mentally. And their obvious response is, if someone's going through mental anguish, there's lots of options. It's not necessarily this one thing. And we would say as Christians, it's violating your telos. Okay, so Matt Walsh has this documentary, What is a Woman? And it doesn't go far enough in my view, because it just responds to the material cause and the formal cause. But as Christians, we also have to note that male and female also have a telos, a final cause. That's ultimately what makes us who we are. And when we start to change that, we're going against what our God-given telos, our God-given final cause. So there's more to the equation here than just that. We would say this is actually going to be harmful because it's violating someone's telos. Now, there's a lot there to unpack. I don't know if I have the time to do it all here, but I would say this is not a valid comparison in and of itself, just because there's a difference between a heart replacement surgery and gender transitioning. One is life-saving. One is you need to change in someone's body radically to just confirm what they think is true in their head. So this is just not a valid comparison, I would say.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd say it's not a great comparison. The point that's being made is, you can have things that are you're altering your body for treatment. And so there are a number of issues there, because you have on one side of the trans issue, it's almost like they believe that the person is trapped inside the wrong body. And it's almost like some kind of dualism, like there's a boy trapped in this girl's body, and therefore you have to surgically alter the girl's body to line up with, and it's weird. Again, it seems like a weird kind of dualism. Then you have the earlier, it was more common earlier, that it's actually a mental disorder. But notice, if you think it's a mental disorder, this doesn't mean that you hate the person or want to kill the person or something like that. And therefore the question becomes, okay, if you regard it as a mental problem, what is the treatment? What is the treatment? And so the theory there that's being advocated, or possibly here, or at least brought up, is that the gender surgery is a kind of therapy, that this person has a problem, and this is part of the treatment. I would say before taking that remotely seriously, we'd have to see some good evidence that it's a successful kind of treatment, because a lot of this is pretty new, and we've seen some disastrous results of people getting their surgery and then finding out nothing got better and things got worse and so on. But yeah, I don't know, and I'm probably not the person to ask about that sort of thing.
How can we be sure Jesus is God and not just someone who was in the right place at the right time? Thank you for your work. God bless.
Well, there were a lot of other people in that place at that time. So,
I mean, so no one else rose from the dead. No one else did the miracles he did. He also said he was God.
In a lot of right places at a lot of right times.
You can go right. Let me go to Matthew or Luke. They both have Jesus with these sayings, like Matthew 7. Jesus says, "Not everyone who comes to me and says, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven." Now, when he says "Lord, Lord" in Greek, it's been shown by scholars like Michael Patrick Barber that when you see in the Greek Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, when you come across things like Hashem Yahweh or Yahweh Adonai, in the Greek translation, they translate it as Lord, Lord. What does Jesus say about himself? He's Lord, Lord. He's clearly identifying himself as God. And that's not even going to John. John, it's just as explicit, I would say, in more ways than one.
All that matters is food.
All right. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Room, and you got your key.
Okay. Yo, favorite philosophers and why? Bernardo Kastrup. I like that.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel here, aren't you? Go ahead.
Trent Doherty's great. I do like a lot of stuff Trent Doherty lately. I'm trying to think favorite over. I mean, of course, there's a lot of disagree with on William Lane Craig, but I still think he's very influential. There's a lot of Survivor Ed, so he's definitely in that tier in terms of philosophers for sure. I also like Keith Ward. Susan Schneider's great. Anscombe, great ethical philosopher right there.
Notice not one word about Aristotle, Plato.
Who's Aristotle?
None of that. See this? See what I'm dealing with here?
Is he Did he write any recent papers?
Sitting here, unless you wrote a paper for the faith and philosophy, it doesn't count.
Shut up. I'm gonna kick you off my channel.
Yeah, I give some extra points to people who are sort of like pioneers, because Aristotle and Plato would be what?
What is going?
You don't need it. You can just push it on your way down.
It's amateur hour here.
keep scanning it. It's like
John doesn't know how the elevator works.
Yeah,
people.
but he's going to tell you all how to live your lives and what to believe. So, I mean, if you think like Aristotle, I mean, you know, people are using arguments before him, but he kind of comes up with logic. He comes up with the field of logic. He comes up with the field of biology. He's like everything that could be studied, he wanted to study it, and so on. So, and again, this is new. Before him, you had Plato. He's discussing all the areas that are. He turns I mean, him and Socrates turned philosophy in a sort of moral and political direction, whereas before it was like an obsession with what everything is somehow boils down to. They were obsessed with what is everything like made of. And the problem and they're explicit, and so it turns into kind of like a moral and political direction with Socrates raising certain questions, and then Plato just goes all out. But you know, he's writing dialogues, and they're some of the best things ever written to this day. I mean, Plato's Republic, to this day, in my view, the best book in philosophy.
Nicomachean Ethics, I would say, is one of my favorite ancient philosophy books.
Yeah, that's because notice, I mean, Plato's Republic is brilliant and has lots of brilliant ideas in there, and yet most of it you'd read and go, this is nonsense. Whereas Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics is kind of unique from things back then, in that if you go to a discussion of ethical theories to this day, Aristotle's still one of the leading theories that there are.
Yeah.
So
Anscombe, for example.
Yeah, so I like those guys. I disagree with almost everything Hume says. Some reason I love Hume, even though
he's a good writer.
Gets everything wrong. Yeah, I like the people who put their ideas and wrap them up in a really awesome way.
He's good at that.
Hume was good planning.
I'm sorry that such a smug angsty atheist teen lied about you, AP. It bothers me. I don't know how you can be so patient. Look, that happens every day. You just move on with it because it's not about my reputation, it's about Christ's reputation, and it's just clout chasing. Ignore it. About you? Yeah, of course. Ignore it. Move on. Let them do their thing.
I'm saying, if you want to go to war, we could go to war.
Ignore it.
For real.
I
could call in all kinds of favors, and we could go to war with some angsty atheist team.
But I'm not gonna.
Well, I'll dial it up, man.
Because it's not going to help anything. It's like it would distract.
We got channels.
You're not helping. It would distract from the mission of spreading the gospel, which is what I'm going to focus on, and ignore the character assassination. It's just clout chasing. Move on.
You all right, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, John will come back if he feels
he got
like
his McDonald's. That's what he's waiting on all this time. McDonald's. He got a Happy Meal. Oh boy! I got a Happy Meal.
Plantinga posits in his defense of the problem of evil that God can't create a world where someone doesn't commit at least one act of evil. How does it square with heaven, where people don't sin? Because in heaven we don't sin from knowledge, not from lack of free will. It's because we've learned that sin would be like. Look, here's an analogy I give. When you were a kid, did you put things in your mouth you shouldn't have, like quarters or toys? You don't do that now, do you? Because you learn that that's just bad. There's germs on that stuff. Same thing with sin. We'll eventually get to the point where we're like, this is just so bad, I don't even want to do it. Same kind of thing. It's not going to be from lack of free will. It's going to be from knowledge and from sanctification. So that does not work. Have you ever talked to Matt Baker of Useful Charts? Would love to see a collab. I've not, actually. Also, what are your thoughts on Augustine's theology of evil not existing? I talked about the privation, which I agree with. I think Augustine is right. Evil is a privation. It's like coldness. Coldness doesn't exist. It's just the absence of heat. Evil is just the absence of good or moving away from God's heart, I'd say. Do you hold to God being timeless? I don't, but I realize that's the majority of you. Yeah, I think I lean towards Richard Swinburne's view, which is a little bit nuanced. And I don't want to rehash it now because I'll butcher it, but Richard Swinburne has a different kind of view. Like that God might be in a different type of time. So.
You want to come over here and show everyone your little cheeseburger there, John?
Nope.
You can eat. You can.
Oh, I mean,
It's
close to my fries next
where's the toy? Are you gonna get the toy out first? Do you subscribe to some confessions, and what do you think about covenant theology? I don't. I leave that kind of stuff out because it's not important for the message of my channel. It's just about defending Christianity. So if I do, that's private. That's what I'd say. Do you subscribe to any confessions?
It's a secret.
He ascribes to secret confessions because he's a Gnostic heretic. Just join. Hope this wasn't already asked. What are each of your stance on whether there will be a rapture? Yeah, we did cover that earlier. I don't think there will be a rapture. There's an increased talk of it since the Israel-Hamas thing. Yeah, I did a video again back in May on the rapture, and I just explained that's just not in the Bible. Do you believe in the rapture?
It's one of those areas where I mentioned earlier, like I look back and okay, this smart guy, he's on this side. This smart guy, he's on that side. This smart guy, he's on that side.
There aren't any smart people in the rapture. No, I'm kidding. Is using Revelation 5:8 and 19:8 a good case for annihilationism? The same pattern of blank then John inspired vision is found in Revelations 20:14-18 second death passages. I don't think so because Revelation is very hyperbolic, use a lot of metaphors. Be very careful when trying to derive doctrines from just Revelation. If you're going to derive a doctrine from Revelation, you have another place in Scripture where you're finding it, because we're talking about. No one takes all of Revelation literal or metaphorical. It's a very complex book. There are still theologians and scholars that go to passage of Revelation going, I have no idea. Well, I have no idea what's going on in this passage. Like, what's with the angel coming down, putting one foot on the sea and one on the land, and giving John a scroll to eat that's bitter. It's confusing. Be very careful about just relying on that. Do you think Christian women should veil in prayer in church? I don't think it's necessary. No, I think that was a cultural thing of the time. It's not necessary. Paul does not lay it down like it is some sort of like universal command for the church. That's
and it's kind of confusing that it also sounds like that your hair is given to you as a covering, and that's so you have kind of
that's the thing. I think Paul might actually be responding to the Corinthians in there because he says the long hair is the covering of a woman. So he might be actually contradicting them like he's doing in 1 Corinthians 14.
And so, my view is if I'm not entirely clear on what's being said and what's being responded to, what the heck?
I'm just thinking, I don't like putting his mouth all over my water bottle.
I'm thirsty. I'll take this one then.
This is what goes on here? My goodness.
Amateur hour. Who presents the historical Adam? Whose presentation of the historical Adam did you prefer, William Lane Craig or Andrew Loke? I'd say in terms of presentation, probably Loke, just because he had a more like, hey, I'm just finding that there are different ways to look at this. There's many compatible views. Craig's talk was more like just giving more evidence for his position. So I think I like both. I think I just preferred more Loke's in that view. You weren't there. You wouldn't know.
You're right.
IP, is your Twitter post about religion being overall beneficial? Matt Dillhunty asked if you meant Christianity or religion, which isn't why. Okay, so I posted like a video meme and atheists lost their mind. I loved it. It triggered them, like Matt and all. It really triggered them because
not
it was just
exactly
a
hard
joke.
to trigger.
It's just
these guys.
Stupid joke. But then I posted a video under that I did on YouTube a while back, showing that it's clearly talking about Christianity being beneficial, and here's all the studies that show that. So check out that longer video.
Yeah, it is funny.
If you're going to take this water, you got to fill this up for me to get more water because I'm thirsty.
The man is thirsty, man.
I got you.
I'm gonna spit on you.
As far as atheists getting triggered, like me and AP, who's an atheist, we just did a show talking about Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and in my thumbnail I make AP crying. He's crying tears, and the title is "Atheists Lose It Over Ayaan Hirsi Ali Converting to Islam." Yeah. And we say in the live stream, we're making fun of the Dawa guys. We're always like, you see, so-and-so converted. This is the proof. We're making fun of it. And yet I get endless comments from me. David, I'm not losing it. I'm not losing it at all. Let me give you 17 reasons I'm not losing it. I can't believe you said that we're losing. It's like
triggered. Yeah, I did a stupid video meme that just triggered them all, and I loved it. I was actually laughing so much. But then I just to add context, I posted another video under that to explain what the studies I use for that. But that's on Twitter. How would you respond to the Marxist argument against religion? It's a coping mechanism by the proletariat that they'd argue something. The scientific data doesn't support that. They're just wrong. And see my video
Yeah,
that I just mentioned.
it's. I mean, this is a problem with some very intelligent dude sitting down and coming up with his theory about how the world works, and getting millions and millions of people killed for his dumb idea that fails wherever people try it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take much of anything seriously as a critique of Christianity there.
Does God use water baptism to save?
What do you think?
Well, I think that baptism is necessary if you're a Christian. If you're like a thief on the cross position, which most of you were not, why aren't you baptized? That's what I would say. It's part of the salvific process. Everyone should be getting baptized because it's part of the whole sanctification or regeneration, justification, sanctification process.
Heresy.
Your mom's heresy. Do you guys think that Paul was in Thessalonica for 3 weeks?
How are you not beating his face in right now? How did you not swing, man?
That's something I should probably do a video on. I need to look at that.
Which said my mama. Man, if that little ice cream had gone flying right in his face right there, that would have been classic.
I would have.
You had the opportunity, man.
I would have cried racism. This is probably something I need to do a video specifically on. I've not looked at this specifically, so I need to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the internal evidence.
Acts 17 verse Thessalonians. David, as a diagnosed psychopath, do you really care on a deep emotional level about all the bad stuff Muhammad did, or is it just intellectual?
It's purely intellectual.
There you have it.
It is human beings. Human beings are created in the image of God, and therefore they shouldn't be treated in the way that Muhammad insists they should be treated.
You see? Have you heard of Catholic psychedelic folk sense? No. I'm not even sure what that is.
No.
I'd have to look it up. I may have.
It's dope.
I may have, and I'm just forgetting about it because I've not heard that term. Just doesn't sound familiar. But Steelman, open theism. Okay, so it's the idea that God doesn't know the future. The future hasn't happened yet. It's not so much that God is not omniscient; it's that the future doesn't exist yet. So when
God can't know something that
if you want to comment, you're going to be on camera.
Yeah, you over here munching on ice cream. Imagine someone just being off camera and interfering with the live stream. That's screwed up.
Yeah, no one would ever do that. Move over. I got
these guys. I'm going to enjoy my McFlurry.
I got to put up with on this.
Let me go ahead and give my thoughts on. If I were to Steelman open theism, goes something like this. Think about omnipotence. Omnipotence does not mean.
My water.
What the heck, man?
He's coughing.
You got serious? You got serious?
I coughed once,
You got
and he's
serious
losing his
questions?
mind. It's germophobia.
Yes, I don't
Got
drink
that
after
coat,
noon.
John. Put your mask on, John. Don't get that COVID.
If you get me sick, I'm gonna be upset.
So, omnipotence sounds all powerful. It doesn't mean the power to do absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
Most people would put some qualifications on there. It doesn't mean the ability to perform logical contradictions and things like that. So there would be, it's the power to do anything that can be done. And there are explanations that would kind of further narrow down what can actually be done. But the power to do whatever can be done. And so with something like omniscience, what you could say is it's not knowing absolutely everything. It's knowing everything that can be known. And right now, things that have happened in the future can't be known. And so you can believe in omniscience while believing that God doesn't know the future, because that is not something to be known. Keep in mind, in case everyone tuned in the last 30 seconds, that's not what I'm saying. We're asked to Steelman.
Yeah. Love y'all content. Do you guys have any good book recommendations on the historicity of the book of Daniel? Daniel's an historical figure. So I think Kenneth Kitchen did something on that a while back. I think he did it with a few other scholars. So perhaps that's something I need to look more into. I'm waiting for John Walton to publish his commentary on Daniel. So I'm waiting on that. He said today that it's probably not going to come out till next year, unfortunately.
In that the historical background Bible, John Walton has some commentary on Daniel.
Yeah.
Right,
So yeah, I would say, look for that coming out at a later date. But yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. There's various papers I know about it, but check out stuff that Kenneth Kitchen may have done in the past. For now, how can I get American Christians to talk more about Imperial Japan, Hong Xiuquan, and Taiping Rebellion?
It's not going to happen.
They're just not interested in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to be more affecting us specifically.
And we're, keep in mind, we're not saying that's the way things ought to be. We're just speaking realistically. Japan is not, viewed as a horrible danger or anything like that to people right now. And so, I mean, you've got Islam, you've got communism, you've got wokeism, you've got all these issues that people are worried about. Probably not going to be, we need to focus on Imperial Japan.
Yeah, that's going to be way out of there. Should churches start using modular synths?
Should they?
And strobe lights and fog machines. Get rid of the incense, all that tradition. Get that out of there. We want rock concerts.
Think about it. You walk into church and it's what? See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember sitting in one of those big mega churches one time and them handing out communion, and I was like, I love communion, and they handed out like these little snack packs, and I'm like, I need to find a more traditional church. Like it's just so done. Thank you for that. What are your thoughts on the Mahdi in Islam being viewed as potentially the Antichrist? I've heard.
Hold your thoughts on that. We're gonna have me and John are gonna be having some stuff on that.
We were talking about that before the stream.
Yeah, I'm a post millennialist, so I don't think that's gonna happen. But these guys might do something on that.
More. What's actually going to happen? We are going to talk to someone who studies this a lot more than we do, specifically the Islamic overlap on eschatology.
Yeah. Are you a hylomorphous? Also, can you use Leibniz law to explain the Trinity? I don't think I am. It's definitely not something I label myself as. And I don't think Leibniz law can be used to explain the Trinity.
I was thinking that. Yeah, how does that work? That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'd have to look to see what you mean more about that. I meant last two debates, and the last debate I watched today was Daniel versus David Wood, also IP. Why do young Earth people? It sounds like a race of the young Earth people are attacking everyone to battle stations. Not add to 6,000 years Earth with Adam 933 years and Enoch 365 years. Plus the other patriarchs, because the young earthers are not saying those total ages need to be added to the age of the earth. It's when Adam has a son, which is like 130 years, when Enoch has a son. So it's not their total years. It's when they have a son, and they calculate to be 6,000 years. But of course, if you read the Septuagint, you get over 7,000 years. It's not because those ages are different depending on you're going to the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Septuagint, or the Masoretic text. So that's why they don't look at the full ages that need to be added onto the 6,000 years. I love David and the rest of you, Ig.
I guess.
I love it. Good comment of the day right there.
Comment of the day. All right. Hi, guys. Awesome work. Maybe you could have Boom Boom Room where Muhammad met Batman, use the detector skills to debunk Muhammad. I can do an impression of Christopher Nolan's Batman, LOL.
I think I can pull off a Batman. I did the Joker. I rocked the Joker.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. You got to use you got to use lines like "I'm not wearing hockey pads."
Oh yeah. Oh, this would be one where we might need an interrogation. You know what I mean? Like when he's interrogating Heath Ledger.
That would be good.
Bang.
Oh, you were. They don't hate you enough. All right. Any videos debunking the Serapis Savior myth IP? Yeah. See a video I did called Jesus versus Serapis, where I keep mispronouncing his name, say Serapis, because that's what I was taught. And then I was later said it's Serapis. So there's a video I have Jesus versus Serapis, and I cover that. So how to give count consoling words to non-Christians.
There.
Here.
Yeah, David, this sounds like one for you.
Sucks to be you.
Don't do what David Wood tells you to do.
Hey, by the way,
just console them, talk to them, hear them, listen.
You know what's weird is that I learned over time to just sit there and keep my mouth shut. Right?
Good.
When something's going wrong.
You're not doing that today.
So I'll just sit there like this, right? I'll just sit there. And I'm not saying anything because I know I'm gonna say something stupid, right? So I just sit there. But it turns out, I heard from someone who said, David is so comforting to be around because he just sits there like a rock and sits with you. And I'm like, I think I'm being totally useless because I'm like, okay, I'll just sit here.
Hey, Pete, can you debunk this guy named Quran and Bible Blog? He made videos a lot about you and David Wood as well.
Never heard of it, but yeah, if there's something particular you want us to respond to, we go live sometimes going talking about stuff.
I responded to some of his stuff on Trinity Radio.
Oh, so you're familiar with it.
And it's awful. He tried to defend Daniel Hakikichu. And
Wait, he tries to defend the world's leading proponent of child marriage?
Yes.
Oh, it must be a good channel then.
it's arguments were bad, and honestly, I don't have time to get to everyone, and I don't pretend to. And sometimes some stuff is just so bad, I let it speak for itself. And there's an example right there. So maybe in the future we'll look some more at stuff. But I mean, there's so much to get to. It's impossible to get to everybody. David, did you know anyone else on the ASPD spectrum who was saved by Christ?
I know a couple of people who have told me they've greeted me as, hey, fellow psychopath or sociopath or something like that. But just statistically, I would guess that there are several in churches, and it's just hope that they're not abusing the church and are actually sincere. Because I mean, keep in mind at the end of the day, someone with antisocial personality disorder, someone who you don't form normal and emotional attachments to other people, you don't have remorse, you don't have empathy, and so on. You can still know that you have violated the moral law and that you are in need of a savior, and so you can become a Christian. But I would say be on your guard. I've wanted for years. My wife and I have been toying with the idea of her making a video titled "So You Want to Marry a Psychopath," because she actually gets comments from people online. They'll send her messages and go, "Hey Marie, I'm dating this guy, and yeah, he's a psychopath. And so people are warning me not to stay with him, but I look at you and David and things worked out for you." And so Marie would respond, "No, don't do that. The only possible exception is if you think something actually miraculous has happened in that person's life to radically change his course, because that's what I have with David. So if you have that, if you don't have that, you need to get the heck out of there real quick. Like,
got a game plan to convert the Sentinelese. When Jesus has a plan, it will happen. We just got to wait on him. Right now, it's impossible to get there due to government restrictions. But I think a path will open eventually. We just have to be patient on the Lord. The North Sentinelese Island. Get up with the program.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Oh, is that the ones that they
close off?
The Amazon?
Yeah. No, it's an island in the Indian Ocean.
Oh, interesting.
What's the best not meant to be a Christian movie you guys saw? What is it? What is that one movie? The Quiet Place or A Quiet Place? What's the bet? That's like it says a pro-life message in it, because instead of having an abortion, they have the baby, even though you can't make sounds in this post-apocalyptic world.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Elaborate.
I've always like you have the idea, you have the people who think, oh, things are just going to get great in the future, like Star Trek, right? And then you have the people who make a dystopia. And when I normally see a dystopia movie, I'm like, you have no freaking clue what people are capable of once everything breaks down. Mm-hmm. And you look at something like Fury Road, where they instantly start like combining like a religious, I mean, you could compare it to Islam, right? With Immortan Joe and so on, just, using all of this and to get girls around him and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's much more realistic. It's a perfect picture of, hey guys, you think you abandon Christ and then everything just continues working as before. And no, I think you get something like Mad Max Fury Road is what you'd actually get.
Muslims like to argue about the literacy of the writers of the Gospels based on literacy rates levels. Is this factual or just probability? Okay, this is a bad argument for one reason. If you take the four gospel authors, for example, Matthew was a tax collector, so he was a writer. Luke was a physician, so he had to be educated. I think John was of the priestly family because I think it was John the Elder.
Sounds like a community.
So he would have also been trained. Mark was the interpreter of Peter. So, he would have had to, he obviously had some training as well to interpret and write for him. And even if all that's wrong, most people in the ancient world wrote through scribes. Cicero was extremely educated. He still wrote through a scribe constantly.
Paul was extremely educated.
He used a scribe.
Yeah.
That just was the case.
Yeah, so it's that's a terrible, stupid argument. And think Muslims are the last people in the world who should be using this because they believe what? They believe their prophet was illiterate. Oh, therefore he couldn't have had someone write stuff down for him. That would be pretty much the dumbest thing ever.
Oh, here we go. What is your honest take on Eastern Orthodox Church and its history? Wouldn't be offended by your answer. I think it is a Christian church. I think it has great history and tradition. I don't know what to say. Nothing wrong with it.
Heresy. It's like, I don't know.
Get out of here.
I don't know enough about the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Hey guys, why does God allow babies to die or be miscarried? I have an idea, but I don't know if I have the right answer. Well, again, we live in a fallen world. We live in a world that's
this is you are not in heaven, my friend.
has not been redeemed yet. See my video, The Problem of Suffering, that might help. I go into that in more detail. World needs a Mike Jones narrating Lord of the Rings audiobook.
All the parts.
The only
Doing
person,
the voices all yourself.
Well, I do. I've read the Lord of the Rings out loud twice now to my daughter. The only person that has heard the Mike Jones rendition of Lord of the Rings is my daughter. She's heard it twice.
How did you not record that?
Because I didn't.
Mike Jones reads The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, no. I've read The Hobbit to her like 8 times now too, so she loves that book. Happy, can you? Yeah, we already responded to that one. Oh wait, we missed one here. What are your thoughts on Josephus on Jesus? I think the testimonium is interpolated, but I think
it sounds like there's an original. I think that's the standard position. I mean, the most common position that there was an original core that was later later interpreted. Wait, do you believe completely interpolated?
No, I think there was an original core.
Yeah,
and
and then
later
later
talking about the second one. Because there's two different ones, right? So the first one is supposed to be legit, if I remember right. The second one was the one that had the.
Well, it's that they're doctored. They like some later scribe seems to have added some praise of Jesus in there.
In Lacona's book, he talks about it. In Mike Lacona's book on Jesus and the resurrection, and I think he mentions two instances. And the second one, I think he says that there's evidence that it was tampered with. But the first one, I believe, I don't think
Book 20
dispute.
Book 20 is not disputed. No.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I was wondering what your thoughts on why Christians switch traditions. Do you believe it's a call from or the will of God, or are they simply seeking something that they think theirs is lacking? I think, like the book Streams in the Desert, there's different streams flowing out from Christ that are going to match different people, and we need to respect that. I think God works through all the denominations that are not heretical. So we need to be, I think a lot of times people feel like they feel better in traditional church, maybe a more non-denominational church, and that's just the streams in the desert. There's a book about that, literally called Streams in the Desert. It talks about this. So yeah, I don't think there's anything beyond that, just people finding Jesus in different areas due to our differences. Doing a Sunday school lesson on near-death experiences beyond Lee Strobel's book. What else would you recommend? Well, in my series, Irreducible Mind, part 5 covers near-death experiences, and I use some books in there you can use.
If you actually want if you want like case studies from medical professionals and so on, you can get the journal from Journal of Near-Death Experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You can become a member of the organization and so on. You get the journal and comes out a couple times a year.
And there's a book written by Dr. Jeffrey Long that I read. It's called Evidences of the Afterlife, which if you want just like a basic overview of the basic views or the basic experiences, I'd probably recommend that book. It's not strictly Christian though, just so you know too, but I did a video recently where I talk about this to give you an approach to kind of thinking about these things. And it was in the book, or it was a video in response to a movie on near-death experiences that Angel Studios just put out. So I just did it a few weeks ago, so you can check that one out.
Why isn't there anything in the Old Testament about a resurrected Messiah?
I think there is.
So my take on this is like 1 Corinthians 1 says, Paul says, if the archons had known the plan of God, they would not have crucified the Lord. So there's this idea that there was some secrecy on purpose until the resurrection so that it would go according to God's plan without anyone knowing, so it could interrupt it and not proceed with the plan forward. So it's like not only the archons, but the demons working through the archons, which is just the Greek word for ruler, would not interrupt and ruin the plan of God. So I think there was that aspect that some of this stuff there was a little bit of hidden messages not revealed until Jesus rose from the dead.
And so, and then you have, of course, them bringing up passages. So, I mean, think about it. I mean, if you think about like Isaiah 53, and someone is crushed for our iniquities, but then then his life is prolonged and so on. He sees his offspring, or the various psalms that the early Christians quoted. They applied things that are kind of metaphorical in the Psalms to, where you're metaphorically talking about as if you're dead, even though you're not. And they applied it, say, actually the fulfillment is in Jesus. The literal fulfillment is in Jesus, and so on. So I wouldn't say there's nothing. I wouldn't say there's nothing. I would say yes. If you reject Jesus and reject the resurrection, you wouldn't read these passages in that light, but they certainly fit.
All right. Any good books on the moral argument? I would say stuff by Peter S. Williams is going to be good.
That's what I was talking about, the Peter guy.
Oh, okay. On the resurrection?
At the beginning of the screen.
Peter J. Williams or Peter S. Williams?
Oh, actually, I don't know.
Uh-huh. Anyway, Peter S. Williams would be good. Linda Zexisby, I forget how to pronounce her last name. Sorry, can't remember. What did AP think of the Iron Raw debate with D. Wood?
I don't know. Don't know if he saw it. Haven't talked to him about it. Yeah, I haven't talked to him about it. As far as I liked C. Stephen Evans' book, God and Moral Obligation. I like that on the moral argument, but that's from a philosopher. But it's also pretty short, and it's probably when I look at various philosophers on the moral argument, his is pretty much it's very similar to my thinking on the issue. So.
I will try to look at Tick History. I don't know what that is.
People keep bringing up Tick History.
Have you seen After Death documentary by Angel Studios?
That's what I was just talking about. That's the one I just reviewed. So check out my review on that. I just did about a week or two ago. Yeah.
Why isn't there anything about it? Oh, we already did that one. That was just the same one again. What are your guys' views on cussing versus cursing? Should we consider the context in which words are used, or use all of cuss words as prohibited? So my whole thing is that's a modern thing. I wouldn't use curse words around people that are going to be offended by it, because we don't want to cause someone to stumble. But there's nothing inherently evil about certain words. We just make certain words evil. But there's nothing really about cussing, because this is something that comes out of the Victorian era, that certain words are inherently evil and cannot be said. They didn't have this type of concept in the biblical era. They use their all available vocabulary when they could. So there's stuff on that. I just don't.
Potty mouth Mike.
That's me.
Mm-mm.
You know,
it's interesting because in communications class, Nabil actually did a full communications major, even though he went into med school. But because we were both in the speech and debate, I took a ton of communications class, and I had one professor who was explaining. It depends on she was explaining like a guy was kind of coming up to her in a dangerous manner, and she's like explaining. She showed the language that she used to kind of warn that guy off. But she was all for absolutely dialing up language depending on as the circumstances call for. And so there could be circumstances where you just absolutely let loose with the horriblest of horrible language, and depending on
it depends on context.
What do you do with James 4? I believe it is, where he talks about watching your words and stuff. I mean,
watch your words, right. But it's more of a sin to say "you fool" than it would be to say, "Oh shit, I stubbed my toe." Like, we got to use the context here, you know. But about context, use it around certain people. You know,
I don't know if we can be on this live stream with potty mouth Mike. You need to change your channel name from Inspiring Philosophy to Potty Mouth Mike.
This is the worst gang name ever. You got to read this one.
What?
You see,
this is the truth of Christ. All atheists must convert because it's the truth. Live in your eternal life or die in your rage, you little weaklings.
You're sick, boy.
Secondary question: do you guys ever get fear from your own salvation, thinking of you to go to hell because you're not No, I don't ever get that. I don't think that's something to worry about, because we're saved by Christ, not our own works, or sitting in the right pew.
Yeah, so I think never crossed my mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say if you look at like John 5:24, John 6:38, like there's so many passages where Jesus says over and over too, if you believe, you'll have everlasting life. So if you believe, you don't have to worry because you have everlasting life. And in John 5:24 too, by the way, he says how if you believe, you won't cross, or you won't die. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but you won't cross over into death. I can't remember exactly how it's worded. Read John 5:24, and hopefully that gives you some solace.
Don't tell us what to do.
Hey guys, as an open theist, thanks for explaining it so well. The future simply doesn't exist, so God doesn't know it. This is just a hangout. Yeah, we're just doing a hangout.
Yeah, we're at a conference. It was after the conference.
And
thank
you for the gift. Appreciate that. Skip, if asked before, do you people go overboard when saying we have more evidence for Jesus than other historical figures like Alexander the Great? No. For the person, no. We could say we have more historical evidence for,
If
like
you're talking about how early the sources are in relation to the person's life, lots of the stories about Alexander or stuff are late. And
Late.
So, but at the same time, Alexander conquered a very, very massive portion of the world, spread Greek, named a ton of cities after himself, and so on. So, he left a big impact on the world. So you'd have to, if you wanted to compare Jesus in a way where Jesus is outstripping Alexander, you need to like clarify like the number of sources within a certain number of years that we still have, and so something along those lines. But yeah, I'd have to see that before I would ever use it.
On veneration of icons, can we respect the icons at the very least? Do images actually represent the people they portray? Veneration of icons is not a sin. I don't know why people think it is. It's part of the Catholic tradition. I don't see any problems with it. I'm not sure what the issue is here. I think it'd be a problem if it becomes more important than Christ. Like there's some surveys that say some people pray more to the saints and Mary than Jesus. I think that's a problem. But I don't think there's anything wrong with venerating icons. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I don't know. Muslims bow down to a big cube if you're looking for, and they kiss a black stone. And if you look at the way they treat certain things, like even copies of the Quran and so on. But yeah, I don't see an exact parallel there.
IPU makes better videos, David or John. Oh, this is easy. Mike Winger. So there. See, easy answer.
Idly ho!
Holler.
Hi, neighbor. We're just going to start with this song. Jesus loves you. Jesus loves me.
You'll never get on Winger's channel of that. I was thinking the synths would be used by some Rhino Eno style stuff or something closer to
really into the synths.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't think so. Just want to say thanks for the videos. Helps me a lot as a former atheist coming back to Christ. Your videos are great. Thank you, King Dangle. I appreciate that. Much appreciated.
Kingle Dangle.
Yeah. D Wood, do you ever believe praying to people you have passed on like Mary is permissible or taught in the Bible, or are you guys going to do a seminar in the future?
I can almost guarantee you I'm not going to do a seminar on this in the future unless something very different, something changes.
When Mary appears to him, yes.
It's an issue. I just talked about this on AP where I was explaining because the question brought up by AP's wife, Mrs. Apostate. She said, "What's more likely to happen, AP becoming a Christian or David becoming a Catholic?" And I pointed out that notice this ties in with the question about, hey, do you worry about jumping denominations and things like that? It's never crossed my mind that I need to be in some particular group beyond being Christian. But I pointed out that a lot of the things that really bother lots of Protestants about Catholicism, even though I don't believe in them, they don't bother me as much. And so, like, asking the saints for intercession or something like that. Like lots of Protestants are like, how can you do that? And I get it. It's like, hey, if you're going to be talking to someone, why not just talk to God? What are you talking to this other person for? But I get the response. It's, wait a minute, even the Paul can say, hey, pray for us. So you can talk to other people and have them pray for you. Why are you telling them to pray for you when you could just talk to God directly? So you believe you can have other people interceding for you. So if you believe that people are alive after death, then why can't you have them? And so again, I'm not doing it. I've never done it, but I'm not as revolted by the idea as lots of other people. So that's kind of like with lots of the issues in Catholicism. It's like, oh, I don't believe this, I don't believe that, I don't believe this, I don't believe that. But it's not like I'm horrified by it, and it's I'm gonna run around really, really hostile towards Catholicism for saying these things because.
Remember the Dembo talked to spirits, aka demons, and told them the Quran was true? I had to show it to all my Christian friends. Yeah. We showed John that.
Real winner. Talking about that.
Show everybody that. Show everyone that. That's great.
I talk to demons just like Muhammad did. And you know what the demons tell me? They tell me to believe in Islam, just like they told Muhammad.
Exactly. What is a good beginner advice books for getting into apologetics? Also, can you listen to Rusty Ruin Acts 2 Saturn version? It's a goated song. Well, not now. Maybe later.
No,
Check
right
out
now.
Handbook of Christian Apologetics by Peter Kraft and Mauro Tassili. Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview by...
That's not a good beginner book. Philosophical Foundations.
Tactics.
It's Philosophical Foundations.
Yes,
you start with
yes.
the foundation.
Yeah,
No,
to start with.
that is not a beginner
Yeah,
book.
that's
What
what I said.
planet are you from?
That's what I started
So-
with.
That is not. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're inspiring philosophy. right?
Thank you,
You're,
yeah.
you're in a different category. You can't apply yourself to everyone else.
You see?
You see?
For real,
Oh, yeah.
for
Tactics, for sure.
introduction to apologetics, if you're talking about like methodology, tactics, if you're talking about just introduction to apologetics, I mean, a lot of like Lee Strobel books and stuff are,
Yeah,
are good.
yeah.
Case for Christ, Case for Faith, that sort of
Oh,
thing.
guard.
Start,
Kind of.
Can you guys do a full rebuttal to Tove Singer? I'm not familiar with all of this stuff, but Michael Brown debated him and wiped the floor with him.
We were there, right? Weren't we all at that debate?
No, this was when he did on like Sid Roth's show.
No, you're thinking of Rabbi Shmuley.
Oh, what
That was Rabbi
Oh, no,
Shmuley.
it was-
Rabbi Shmuley is about to debate Muhammad Hijab.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like Rabbi
yeah,
Shmuley.
yeah.
Yes, it would be terrifying. Yes, it would.
Mike, that's hilarious.
Are you
Hey,
familiar?
you skipped over that one pretty quick.
Yeah, my voice is starting to go. from all these questions. Are you familiar with New Testament scholar Philip Payne's work on women in ministry? So, what are your thoughts? I'm not. So, sorry, I cannot answer.
That's why we need Mike Winger and his Wingaling
Winging
squad.
You should look up Joshua Graham. All right, I will try to do that.
No, you won't.
What's the difference between ethics and morals? Well, I mean, they're often used interchangeable. I mean, ethics is more like
It's applied morality, right?
no.
I think ethics is. That's what I think it's.
There's different branches of ethics. So ethics is more
Right,
like the general philosophy, and morals gonna be like certain morals you have. But you can, so that's the way I've always thought of it. So perhaps that depends. Different philosophers are going to define them differently. So keep that in mind. Oh, here we go. Can you define Darwinism? Well, it's Darwinian evolution, which is we've moved on from with extended evolutionary synthesis since then. Darwinian is the idea that there are certain adaptations that cause changes over time in a population, a species. So that's generally what. But he didn't. You don't even include genetics into that because modern theories of evolution combine Mendel's theories of genetics with Darwinian adaptation.
How big
So-
is the Darwin poster on your wall at home?
It's not on the wall; it's on the ceiling, so I can see it when I sleep. How do you reconcile evolution in the Bible in Genesis 2 account where it says Adam was created from the dust? See my video,
That's a
Genesis
long,
2.
yeah, he has a lot of videos on that.
I did a video titled Genesis 2, the dust and the rib, and you will get the full explanation, my man. So,
It's a long answer.
and one of the 10 commandments, what does it mean to use God's name in vain? It's not
Oh, yeah.
So the general consensus I see in scholars is it's misusing it. So using God's name, like in an oath, you swear but not intending to keep, or using it to pronounce like a curse on someone who doesn't deserve it. This kind of stuff. So it's about invoking the name to gain benefits for yourself in especially devious ways is wrong. That's generally what they would say on that.
Yeah.
What do you think of the post-mill versus pre-mill? Post-mill wins.
Pre-meal.
No, see my video.
I'm just saying that just
See my video, The End Times, A New Perspective. I give the post-mill account.
In my personal view, Jesus wins.
So post-mill. Post-mill is Jesus wins. What do you three suggest that have helped you study the Bible? Well, commentaries.
Yeah, commentaries.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of
and
commentaries.
Just do a lot of exegesis, do a lot of studies on words and
Cross
verses.
references.
Yeah.
Thank you. I learned a lot of philosophy and debate, fallacies from IP D. Wood, wise disciple D. Wood. Could be cousins if your last name ended with an in. Also, John,
Oh, Joshua Wood.
what was in your Happy Meal?
It's a fun toy.
He got his own Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
How should I respond to reports of near-death experiences being inconsistent with Christianity?
Yeah, so I did a video just talking about exactly this. The way I'll just to keep it very short, I had a family member who told me that they had an NDE experience, so I had to think about it. But I think, just watch the video because I give 3 points for a criteria.
Yeah,
so that way you can.
I mean, I would say not all of them are necessarily going to be true. I'd say that I only use the ones that use verifiable evidence, like that they were able to report things that happened while they were pronounced dead.
Yeah.
I think those are the best ones to use. I don't ever say all near-death experiences are necessarily true or necessarily happen. Some of them could be hallucinations.
No, I mean,
Well, they will
keep in
contradict
mind,
each
it's like a dream, and that I would believe you can get a dream from God. But I mean, your dreams can also include all sorts of ideas that are in your own head.
Yeah.
The
And
thing
so
is,
a person whose life is like shutting down, and is somehow crossing over to some other side. If that person's brain is still functioning, that person's brain can also be inserting ideas into everything that's going on. And so it's something. Near-death experiences are basically something along the lines of, this seems to fit really well with theism and belief in a soul and belief in an afterlife and so on. You could, apart from the cases you're talking about where like brain function is shut down, or they're called veridical near-death experiences, where it doesn't seem like this person could have known something that happened, and the person wakes up and can tell you something that happened, and the person would have had no way of knowing that. And so that is like, oh, this person has some extra special knowledge or something like that. But apart from those cases, people who don't believe in a soul or an afterlife will try to explain it in terms of what's going on in your brain as it's shutting down and so on. I would say it seems to fit in better with view of an afterlife. I mean, how perfect is it that you're dying and then you wake up, you can see your life, in front of you, and you go through and you're being greeted by other people, or you're going through a tunnel or something like that. It seems like very, very consistent with an afterlife. However, to say it's some sort of infallible source of revelation about the afterlife and about all of reality, that's going way, way, way too far.
And here's what I'll say real quick, just to make it really fast, is those ones that he's talking about, the ones that are verifiable, where you can say a person had an out-of-body experience where they can see things that are happening or hear things that they otherwise couldn't have. That could be evidence that we are not the same thing as our bodies, or that we have a soul that's different than the material aspects of our body. But when you go into the things where people go to like a different place, like the heaven or all of these different places, we can't verify those things because they're not objectively verifiable in the same way like the evidence for the resurrection is, for example. So my view would be that the evidence for the resurrection is superior because it's something that corresponds with external reality that can be verified by multiple sources. So because of that, I think that the evidence is greater for the resurrection than it would be for somebody's experience when they believe that they went somewhere to heaven or something like that.
What are your thoughts on Mike Todd? Is he a false teacher?
I don't know much about Mike.
Don't know Mike Todd, but I know Tony Todd.
I would say I'd say very well could be the case. I need to look more at what he says specifically, though. But be careful with some.
I'd have to hear the reason why. But
just saying hello, appreciate this.
That is Cat Canada, one of the only rational voices left in Canada. Eh? There's not a lot up there.
Yeah.
Man, you think things suck down here? Look at Canada. They got like 4 people holding the line against
If you'd assemble
it's a lot of insanity.
If you'd assemble a Christian Avenger apologetic team, who are you choosing? Oh, easy, Jesus, because he can raise us from the dead if I were to die in an Avenger battle. Win.
He's talking about an apologetics team, not an actual Avengers.
Okay.
Lunatic.
Well, obviously Mike Winger, because David is in love with Mike Winger. So
I really thought you were going to say, well, obviously Mike Jones.
no, that guy sucks.
Who?
Well, who are you putting on?
yeah,
Christian Avengers.
well, we used to be the Avengers. Me, you, and Vocab.
Yeah, we used to have that little behind the scenes like little group name.
Yeah.
You'd have to handpick people for different situations.
I'm jack of all trades, so
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Man. Yeah, we know. Yeah.
Thoughts on Santeria? Joe Clash has some stuff on this, or sorry, John Clash, excuse me, has some greats because he was in Santeria. So, it's clearly stay away from it. It's like occultism. It's not anything good. Don't go near that. Considering being Catholic, if I convert, I will no longer be a true Christian like Mike Winger, Anthony Rogers, Eli. No, I think you will still be a Christian because you're still professing Jesus as Lord and Savior. So you believe in all the core doctrines. So no.
I think that salvation comes only by grace through faith. So take that what you want. I think that believing that we're saved by works, I believe.
Catholics don't believe in it.
I know. Well, some do and some don't. So it depends on what their views are. But maintain that you're saved by grace.
Will I ever do a video on Yahwism? I did. Check out a video I did. The video is titled Israel's Revolutionary Monotheism. And so check out that.
It's a pretty cool name for a view.
I hold a Bible study in a nursing home, and I have shown some of your videos. They love you guys. Good video on evidence for Jesus changing people in DY, New York Sub's testimony. Yeah,
That was classic.
appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
What? Oh, yeah, and she said in Hatun where she gets stabbed and she jumps up and starts preaching. That's awesome.
What are your thoughts on Dale Allison's book and on the evidence for the resurrection? Well, he's written a couple, I believe. Resurrecting Jesus is good. I don't agree with everything in it, though. It depends on which book you're talking about.
Eli.
Yeah, met him. Great guy. Thank you for the very generous super chat. Very much
super cool guy.
Yeah, love this guy. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Opinions on Kabbalah. Well, it's heresy. It's Jewish mysticism. I don't think we need to be involved in that. It's also cannot date past the 13th century in terms of its formal structure and the writings.
Dude.
So.
It's what Madonna believes. How are you going to argue with that? Are you more famous than Madonna?
Narcissist, man. Think you're smarter than Madonna? Huh?
Andrew Tate is, so we could. That.
But who'd win in a fight?
Glance over my copy of Philosophical Foundations. Right. I'm sorry. I think it is. I found it very, very helpful in laying down foundations.
If you take a philosophy of religion like introductory class, then that book would be a beginner one. But you'd have to take that first.
Because David is there, what is your opinion on the eyes being the leather strap of the anus, John?
Probably Muhammad's most powerful teaching.
Powerful stuff. Truly shows he's clearly getting stuff from
but this is your channel, so people might not even know what that's referring to. Guys, there's a quote from Muhammad who constantly bragged about his supernatural eloquence, and there are hadiths where he says the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. And you can watch one of our other videos on what that actually means. I had to actually read commentaries on what the heck that means to understand it.
Is the framework view of Genesis a viable interpretation of Genesis 1? Yeah, I think it's incomplete, though. I think there is a framework going on with days 1 through 6. It's just it doesn't fully explain it. There needs to be more. So I think it's viable, but there needs to be more there. Last one, and thank you guys for the answers. Which is better to prove God as a first case, historical case for the resurrection, or more general philosophical arguments? Thank you, IP, David, helping me come to Christ. Well, appreciate that. I'm glad you're a Christian. So I would, as a classical apologist, I say start with general arguments for God's existence. Then once you've established God exists, then go use the resurrection argument to argue for Christianity. So,
and obviously, IP is wrong.
You see?
No, what you want to do is always see what it is. It depends on who you're talking to and where the stumbling block is. So see what people believe, and then see what you need to build up. If people don't, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to point out along what this is why one of the reasons we're recommending tactics is you find out what the person's actual position is. But I would agree with Mike. Like in general, usually, I mean, if you're arguing for a resurrection against to a non-believer or an atheist or something like that, going to be hard not to automatically side with some alternative explanation if the person doesn't believe in God, or you know what I mean. So it might help your case for the resurrection if you've established at least some reason to think that there is a being capable of doing that sort of thing.
Would you consider debating Bryson Gray? Don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's the conservative dude where he says, what's his song? He's like, I can't remember. It's something funny. But anyway, he was a dude that did he's a rapper. He's the MAGA rapper. Yeah.
Follow-up question: do the leather strap?
By the way, he's a non-Trinitarian, so that's why.
I see. Also, do the leather strap relate to the strap-on pleasure machine?
I still haven't watched that.
The eyes are the leather strap-on pleasure machine of the anus.
Well, great channel you have here.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Paul Washer?
30-mouth Mike.
Something happened 7 years ago that made me seek Jesus, but I was only recently diagnosed with PTSD from that event. Listened to him a lot at first. I think he's more harmful lately. I think his stuff on purity culture and courtship is just bad, but I don't agree with him on his Calvinism stuff either. So, I mean, when he's preaching the gospel, he's fine, but look at other preachers too. You don't have to just get everything from just Paul Washer. Stay away from his courtship stuff. That's just wrong. Let's not do that anymore. Thoughts on psychedelics. Also, stay away from excess Benadryl that will cause gnarly hallucinations and heavy brain and liver damage. Okay, I don't do psychedelics or heavy Benadryl, so no problem. Won't do that.
That's an interesting comment.
Any thoughts on dispensationalism? Yeah, it sucks. We all agree. Next
No, we
question.
do not. I lean that way a little bit, but I'm not super firm on it. But I lean that way.
Yeah, see my video on postmillennialism. It's titled "The End Times: A New Perspective." It just shows why John is just wrong on everything.
Yeah, your video was good. I watched it, by the way. I thought it was good, but yeah, I mean, I still think that there's arguments to be made for dispensationalism too.
Fair enough. What are your thoughts on Eastern Orthodoxy? Well, you're Eastern Orthodox, right?
No, why? Because I'm black.
Do you know what is in
Hey,
the East?
hey, John, get that response ready for our Israel trip, because we're going to be, if we end up going on the Temple Mount, and they say we can't go over somewhere or something like that. Why? Because he's black. I'll be using that. I will be pulling the race card for you nonstop.
Gotcha.
I know you guys are not experts on Revelation, but I love studying eschatology.
Speak
What do you
for
think about the
yourself.
7 churches in Asia, also prophetically being about the future church? I don't. I think it's about 7 churches in Asia.
Yeah.
Why is it got to be prophetic about it?
Well, it can be similar to Old Testament prophecy in that it has a
Possibly.
that, and then some other fulfillment as well.
How can we guys pray for you? Okay, we'll pray that David learns to shut his mouth more. Pray that John stops being a heretic with his dispensationals nonsense. You can pray that I just stay fully
Continue to
funded.
grow in your glory.
You can pray that we stay fully funded so we can keep doing what we're doing. That we need donors, and we need people to pray that we keep staying fully funded. So both are helpful. So if you can donate, we much appreciate it. If you can't, please pray that we stay fully funded. Anything else?
I would say just looking at the way things are going, looks like we are going to be dealing with massive breakdown. Anyway, it looks like there's going to be more and more stuff for us to respond to and deal with. So just pray that we have a kind of a God-led relentlessness in going after stuff, and that we just keep going and going and going like the juggernaut.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah, agreed.
Haven't watched all the stream, but I'm happy to finally see IP having fun and smiling. Yeah, it brings me endless joy.
What's
Same
a
to the
smile?
rest of you. Yeah, don't do that. Are there other gods besides Jesus who also walks among us, or is Jesus the only one? Okay, so in the modern sense, Jesus is Father, Son, and Spirit, only one God. In the ancient sense, Elohim has a much broader meaning. Elohim can refer to like dead people, their spirits, angels, demons, the divine council. It has a much broader meaning. So you could say there are multiple Elohim, but what we modern Westerners mean by God, there's just one God, who's Father, Son, and Spirit. How should I deal with a new member in a Bible study, which I am host of, that claims to be of Christian Buddhist and is a proponent of ancient astronaut theorist ideas on the origin of humanity from Anunnaki? Okay,
I know a guy that holds those same views.
Get an exorcist, first of all.
So that's all nonsense. There's a great documentary called Ancient Aliens Debunked. It's probably still on YouTube. Watch that.
Didn't Michael Heiser do that?
No, that was another guy.
Michael Heiser did a video.
He helped something with that.
Okay.
So this is Zechariah Sitchin. This is based on his work, and he knows nothing about the Sumerian religion or Sumerian history. He lies through his teeth on so much stuff. And even Josh Bowen, who's an atheist, has debunked him. It's just so easy to debunk that stuff. So start there. And then Christian Buddhism is it's not a thing. That's an oxymoron.
Right. Okay. So to answer the question of how to deal with a new Bible study.
Yeah.
How do we
the real question is how to deal with a new member in a Bible study who has extremely wacky, insane.
I went on a rant
and could possibly become a big distraction for the
Inspired
group.
Philosophy's email.
Just talk to him, ask him questions, use the Socratic method. Like, well, how do these things work?
Yeah,
guys, have you looked at responses to Zechariah Sitchin's?
Yeah, go back to we keep coming back to tactics, but read the book Tactics again. Very short book, but it will be asking. It will encourage you to ask this person lots of questions.
Yeah, and I wouldn't try to make my goal just to try to disprove that they're wrong at first too. It's like first build a relationship and kind of just really just ask them what they believe and try to figure out why. I mean, and that's because you don't want to just come out there doing the apologetic thing where you're just giving answers and then they just feel attacked. It's not worth it. Like first start with what you can affirm.
Yeah, I like to get them question them, get them to see that their views are contradictory and they don't work. Yeah. Listening, just questions and listens really helps to figure out where they're at and how you can help and move along. So Friend of mine, classic Deep Drinks podcast question. What is the most plausibly true theistic religion that you don't believe in? Not Islam.
I used to say Islam until I started studying because they have some good philosophical traditions for I was thinking like Al-Ghazali and stuff with like the Kalam and stuff. So I used to think that Islam was more rational until I've been looking at it more and more and more over the years.
Sikh, maybe.
Yeah.
Sikhism.
Yeah, I would just
maybe.
I would think in terms of like generic theism. Just if it wasn't Christianity, it would just be
Stoicism.
God and who knows.
Yeah, I like Platonism,
Pythagoreanism. I like Pythagoreans.
Stoicism, Platonism. Maybe Sikh. I don't know. I'd have to think more about that.
It's hard because there's not.
I like the Baha'i, but then you have to include the Quran in there, and I just can't do that. So
yeah, what's hard about it though is because the evidence for Christianity, I genuinely believe, is just in a different realm than like the evidence for other religions.
Yeah.
So it just makes it really difficult.
You see, David. This is David.
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, okay. So in Christianity, you've got Jesus rising from the dead, but in Islam, you've got the leather strap. The eyes are the leather strap of the anus. So I mean, how are you saying that one is really better than the other?
That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that. What are your thoughts on the Eucharist? I do believe it is the real presence of Christ. I've moved to that position.
Are you a Catholic?
He won't say, but he kind of said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, oh, I'm not a Catholic, but I'll say the Eucharist is amazing.
I'm not a Catholic, but you know, when I listen to everything that the Pope says about every issue,
I agree with the Pope on everything.
I'll give you a hint. I'm either Catholic or I'm not.
Yeah.
That's your question. Okay,
like,
good. No, there are other sects that believe in the real presence. John, what do you know about David and Ruslan? Want to know how David and Ruslan became friends? They seem like polar opposites in personality. No,
do we?
No,
are we polar
opposites?
That
was me, right? Huh? I brought him up.
Yeah, I only met him once. I mean, we send messages and stuff like that. If he sees video clips and stuff. Yeah, I didn't think of myself as polar opposites.
They're both nuts. Okay.
Hey, that was one of the
they're
most
all like they're two of my closest friends in all the YouTube.
We hung out once.
Yeah.
We hung out once.
San Diego.
Yeah, and then we all realized we're hungry. It was like midnight, and we're running around looking for a place to eat. And the only place we can find is this steakhouse, right? And I think, oh, okay, that's good. I like steaks. So we go in there. I say, don't worry, I'll pay for this. Right? And then we order some steaks.
First off, hold on. You're skipping an important step. David goes, let's try the Wagyu steak.
No, the lady offered it, right? It's not there on the menu. She says, we also have Wagyu beef and blah, blah, blah. I was like, let's all Wagyu beef for everybody. Let's all have some. So we're eating it. We're delicious. They bring out the check. It's like $900. I'm like, how did I agree to pay for
and
this?
I offered to pay twice. I was like, you sure? He's like, yeah, I got it. And then the bill came.
I'm not going to
go
like,
you don't want this one.
You really fell into that one.
Yep, that was awesome.
Thoughts on the work of St. Thomas Aquinas. Also, thank you.
That's gotta be your hero, huh, Mr. Catholic?
I think Thomas Aquinas is great. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you should open a book. Start with Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview. It's a good place for you to start. You can move to Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas, the hero.
They mock me for
the
being
savior
smart.
of my branch of Christianity.
They mock me for being smart. I love it.
Aquinas is a beast. I mean, one of the. Well,
you guys know he had an ND type experience. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. And that's part of what's amazing. He used to have 4 scribes around. We talk about people using scribes. He had to have 4 scribes around him. Mm-hmm. So he said, "You write this. While you're writing that, you write this. While you're writing that, you write this," and put together in this what is it, like 2 million words in Summa Theologia and so on. But yes, at the end of it all, he has this mystical experience and says that he's come to view everything. It's nothing. Mm-hmm. It's nothing to him.
Yeah. David, do you ever want to study other religions, or will you be stuck on Islam forever?
As far as apologetics is concerned, I don't know. I don't feel like I have the ability. There may be people who can just study everything, and I don't retain everything that well, so I have to focus on a couple things to do anything well. So,
and it's
with that, it's Islam and atheism, and that can pretty much take up all my time as far as apologetics is concerned.
Yeah. Hi, B. I recently watched David's stream with you about hell. Is there an early Christians who held your views on post-test salvation? I don't know off the top of my head, honestly.
Purgatory, Catholic.
Well, there is a sense of purgatory.
Might be interested in going through like a history, if someone's written a history on various views and so on.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff. Can you read 1 Corinthians 1 for those divided? Yeah, where Paul talks about us being all being one mind.
Your favorite, huh? Yeah.
It's hard to do. Yes, I get it, but it's what God wants for us. We just got to work towards it. Not directly related to apologetics, but what would be the best books for self-educating on philosophy?
Oh, I love my I had an introduction to philosophy book. So whoever you are, write me an email if you like. It was really helped me like learn philosophy early on. There's an introduction to philosophy of religion and an introduction to philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
There were textbooks that I got at college, but they're really accessible, and I thought they were great. So.
Introducing Philosophy by Robert C. Solomon is also good.
Before you do any of that, read Plato's Apology.
Yeah, start there. That's easy. Thoughts on the Crucible's recent debate with Matt? We talked about that earlier. But we don't like either of them. We thought they both did not handle that well. What is your guys' soteriology? Calvinist, Arminian, something in between? What are your all big Christian hot takes that are controversial? Well, I'm a theistic evolutionist and a post-millennialist, so there's two hot takes. I'm Molinist, so which is not really Arminianism. It's just kind of a different way to respond to Calvinism and take that sort of free will view. So that's where I view.
Yeah,
I'm an I don't care-tarian on most issues. It's just weird. It's like, okay, here are the things I have to believe, and here are the things I've studied and I take a position on, and here are all these other things, and I don't know. I have no. There's nothing in me that says, David, pick a side with Calvinists and Arminian and so on.
Hardcore
I understand.
No.
I understand that. I understand like other people think differently and stuff like that, but it's just like it never enters my mind. No, you gotta pick one. You gotta pick a view on eschatology, and you gotta pick a view on Genesis, and you gotta pick a view on this and that. And no, actually, I don't actually.
My soteriology, I hold to a free grace perspective. So it's not quite Calvinist or Arminian. It is a little bit of that in between. Basically, you're saved completely by grace, and works don't prove your salvation. I don't believe that's what scriptures teach, and they don't acquire you salvation. So you're saved completely by grace through faith. But if you do look into it, don't look at it from like Wayne Grudem or somebody like that who's kind of strawmanned it. I'd say just kind of search it from actually like free grace theologians. So.
All right, question for only the smart people, so you guys can shut up. Nominalism or realism, i.e. abstract or universal. Scholastic realism is what I would say. Scholastic realism.
I lean that way too. Yeah.
He doesn't know what it is. He's just trying to fit in.
No, abstract. I agree, though. Yeah, I lean that way for abstract objects.
How do I go about starting religious conversation with Muslims friends? I feel like we only talk similarities, but bringing up differences is awkward. You got to start with the leather straps. You got to go straight from there.
No, you can. I mean, I deleted most of the content on my old channel before I gave it away, but there are archive channels that have that still have this. But look up a video I did called "How to Share Unpleasant Facts with Pleasant Muslims."
Mm-hmm.
And that's for conversations where you're not trying to, there are situations where you might want to blast someone in a debate situation or something like that. This is for actually just having conversations with people, and you go about those differently than you would in a more aggressive or hostile environment. But notice, just to give you an example of something that I bring up there. So notice if you were in an argument about Muhammad against one of the Dawa guys, you might say, hey, your prophet had sex with a 9-year-old girl, guy's a pedophile, what's up with that? But notice, you could get that same information across to a Muslim friend that you want to have a conversation with in a completely different way. And you could get the same information across very differently. You could say, look, here's this article by David Wood. Guy's a total loser. I don't want to believe everything he says. So I was just wondering, could I get your perspective on this topic? So, hey, could you look at this and tell me what you think? So notice there, you're not insulting. You're not coming out guns blazing. You're asking your Muslim friend for his perspective on this issue. And it's non-confrontational, and you could get the exact same information across in that sort of situation.
And honestly, like because like with my friends and stuff like that, my Muslim friends, I just ask them questions that I'm genuinely curious about, and I'm curious about how they would think about it. So I'll just say, hey, what do you do with this? Like, what do you do with this verse? What do you think about this? You know, and then I'll ask them questions about Christianity as well. Say, have you ever heard of the evidence for this with the resurrection, or have you ever heard of this? So those sorts of kind of questions are good for conversation starters.
Wouldn't Jonah praying from Sheol be relevant to post-death salvation? Yeah, I think Brent Petrie is right about Jonah. I do think that Jonah does, in fact, die, and he goes to Sheol, and he prays, and he's resuscitated back to life. I don't think he was living in this fish for 3 days.
Don't say that, because that destroys Zucker Knight's favorite argument.
Ah, yes, it does. So I will say it.
Mm-hmm.
IP best resources for the diversity of views on creation through church history. Any sort? I don't know of any.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, just read the church fathers. I mean,
somebody needs to write that book.
Yeah,
the really big book.
Yeah,
on creation throughout church history.
Does God speak to us audibly? Well, he can, but not everyone. Most people don't. I mean, that's just not his MO. I think it would interfere with sanctification in multiple ways. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you, IP, for taking a picture with me at the RF chapter meeting, David. I was hoping to meet you. Is there a session tomorrow I can meet you at? So this guy wants to. He's coming at you. He has got a Carolina Reaper he wants you to eat. Are you going to go meet him and eat the Carolina Reaper with him?
No.
All right. Well, Andrew, he's not going to come find you now that I told you. I was going to tell him you were looking for him with the Carolina Reaper. He's going to come find you though.
Yeah. We'll be at the Islam track in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll do one more question, then we're going to wrap this up because I need to go to bed to get up for that because it's almost midnight now. What do you think about Paul means in 1 Corinthians 11:27 when he says that we could eat and drink judgment on ourselves? All right.
Yeah, I think that's when Paul's talking about.
Yeah, that's in situations where it's causing problems for other people, right?
Right. Yeah.
Eats bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in unworthy manner will be guilty concerning the body and the blood of the Lord. So yeah, it's about you got to do it in the right manner. You can't be doing it in an unworthy manner. It's not about eating and drinking generally. This is specifically about the Eucharist. It's very important. Yeah. So
I thought that was earlier. I thought 11 was when he's talking about, with the eating meat sacrificed or unto idols, right? I think that was 11 because I think it was earlier in like 5 when he's talking about them getting drunk and stuff like that. And he's just like, "What are you guys doing? You guys gotta go home."
Yeah.
And anyways.
Yeah. Thoughts on Messianic Judaism? Last question. Check out the channel 2 Messianic Jews. I just interviewed them on my channel recently. Great guys. Messianic Judaism is rising, which is what we were. So we want to see more of that.
There's a podcast I listen to called the WhaddoMeme podcast, dude. The WhaddoMeme podcast, but I wouldn't obviously, say I agree with them on everything, but it's a great podcast for understanding Christianity through a Messianic Jewish perspective. So.
All right. We've gone through 181 questions. Thanks for coming, everyone. Well, 181 super chats.
Wow,
that's a record.
That is definitely a record.
Yeah.
So appreciate everyone coming. We'll be at the ETS conference for the next couple of days. Maybe we'll do another stream on one of their guys' channels if we have the time.
And we'll see if we can break that record on my channel.
All right.
All right. Good to see you.